Hello. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm getting my Discord set up just as we're speaking, so I hope everyone's going to be having a great time speaking with us. Come on. Give me 1 second. I'm just getting the Discord up. There we go. We want to make sure everyone is able to see us and speak with us as much as possible. Fantastic. There goes Discord. And so it is good to be back with everyone. It's been a week. And of course, our lovely friends over at YouTube, they were so happy to give us a little bit of a vacation, whether we wanted it or not. And they shut us down. That's why you didn't see a lot of the posts until yesterday. That's why you weren't able to see us live speaking with you on this live stream, because they wanted to shut down your voice. Really and truly, they're not attacking us, this channel. They're attacking your voice because we reach out across the world, across the United States to celebrate free speech. And they really just don't like that. Well, and our first comment today is from Dal. Welcome back. Hello, Dal. It is great to be with you. By the way, yes, we're not on D-Live at the moment. Finances are what they are. Not able to do that. But there's so much to talk about that we have missed you guys, and we want to hear your voice. Remember, you can always call into 607-242-1582. Matter of fact, let me make sure I've turned on that phone. There it is, connected into our system, so you are able to make calls from anywhere in the world and to reach us. You know, I'm going to start off with something real interesting. By the way, if you notice, you can also see the show BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, Telegram, Getter, Facebook, Twitter, Discord. Excuse me. And that's often after the show, and very often you're going to see all of the links for everything that we're discussing so that you can see the information for yourself and make your own decision. Hello, user has been banned. Thank you for joining us. And it's always good to have you here. By the way, I also want to mention at the beginning of the show, the only reason we're able to be here today because there were a couple of people who financially supported the channel, and they made it possible. For people who don't know, we haven't been working since 2020 when, due to the pandemic, the business we worked at was shut down and we were unable to work. We've been living off of our reserves to be able to provide everything you have been seeing for the last 2.5 years has been because of our savings, which, are dropping. So we do want to thank the contributors who went to PayPal and helped us out to be able to be on the show today. So, yes, you did Agent Black. Agent Black is from the UK. He's about 7 hours ahead of us, and so it's always great to see you with us. So I wanted to show you this image. Excuse me. I wanted to show you this image. And I think it says a lot about what's happening right now in the world under the Biden-Harris administration. I think it says a lot about the nature of the destabilization in the world, the confidence that the United States needs to project across the world is not happening. We have the presumed commander-in-chief, and we have members of the army, military that are there. And what do we see? A lack of confidence, a lack of trust. Now, that's not to say that any member of the military, they are free to have whatever position they wish to have. Although, while in uniform, when they are not allowed to express their opinions, nor are they allowed to make a comment about the commander-in-chief when they are present. But I think the face says it all. I think it makes a big statement, and I think it's in reaction to something else that's just as important. And a lot of people don't know this. I've served in the military. My family serves in the military. I know many members of the military, active and retired at this time. And I have to tell you, I don't know of anyone who can recall when a commander, a leader of troops, comes and sits with the troops, which they do sometimes do, but they never eat before the troops. They never go out and have food while I, as the rank and file troops, are sitting there waiting to get food. That is disrespectful of the highest order. And it says something about what's going on with Joe Biden. He has no comprehension of the fact that he is eating and his troops are not. And I know this is a wonderful picture, which is handpicked and very well cropped to show you, oh, Joe Biden's having a great time with troops that were specifically selected to sit next to him. But look at the larger picture. Look at the larger image. This is the image that they want. The media wants you to see to promote this idea that Joe Biden is being beloved. Look at the troops in the background. Look at the people who aren't getting their photo taken, who aren't sitting immediately and directly in front of Joe Biden. Notice no one is eating. Not one soldier has any food available to them. It's not on their plates. It's not in front of them. It's not in their hands. Joe Biden's having the time of his life. His troops are not. Yeah, look at this wonderful edit of a photo, and then look at the reality. Look at what's really going on. Look at how the troops are thinking about their commander-in-chief. Where is it? And then let's go back to this one image again. He's been disrespectful to our troops in Poland, and he's doing it while he's putting their lives in danger because he's been escalating the situation with Russia and Ukraine, and he has been adding confusion into the issue about Russia and the Ukraine. And he's been doing that since December of 2021, as we have been documenting from around the world, because CNN, MSNBC, the American news media system is trying to hide most of the information from you. And that's why we go to 22 different sources around the world. The Times of India, the Israeli Times, we go to the BBC, Guardian, and other sources around the world to try and get you that information. I do see that, and I agree with you. User has been banned. He mentions, look at that face. Agent Black mentioned Trump laid the General Patton bid at the start of the rally tonight, a true war leader. I think President Trump had a genuine respect and love of our troops. You may disagree. I think it's very clear that he's always loved our troops. And whether or not he has problems with certain generals, like General Mark Milley, who was conspiring with China behind Trump's back, that's a problem. That's treason, but that's not the troops. But you have never seen a moment where Trump ate before the troops ate, where he, as commander-in-chief, did not respect the chain of command and those under him, making sure that his troops were fed before him. Patton's a great example. Patton would never have allowed his troops to not eat while he was eating. They ate first. Because if you don't have the respect of your military, you do not have a military. I think that's important. And if you disagree, 607-242-1582, you can call in and tell me I am wrong. If you are a former member of the military and you think I am misquoting military procedure for officers, which I was not, I was regular troops, Lance Corporal in the Marines. So if there is an officer who wants to come out and tell me that I was wrong, I'm more than happy to hear that answer. But I have never seen an officer, I haven't even seen senior ranking and non-commissioned officers, NCOs, regular grunt troops, that have ever done that. So yeah, that upsets me. As a member of the military, as someone who has military family, many military friends, I am insulted and upset to see the commander-in-chief chowing down, stuffing his face full of food while his troops go hungry. And I guarantee you, those troops, when the cameras are away, they're not happy. That is a disrespect. Hot chicks, it is wonderful to see you. I'm happy to see that you're here. User mentions that Biden has always been like this. He treats our troops like cannon fodder. Yeah, remember when he told them that what's wrong with them because they didn't laugh at his bad jokes, that they had issues, that they need to correct their attitudes because he wasn't funny. I remember that. John, good to see you here with us, and I'm glad that you enjoyed our conversation with Matt Brainerd. I do recommend to everyone, if you haven't seen it, while we were under the unrighteous, the really blatantly just the censorship of YouTube, we did speak with Matt Brainerd of Look Ahead America. We got to have an exclusive conversation with him about his efforts to ensure that our elections have integrity, that he is working on efforts to help our school boards to be able to provide our children with the best education possible. He spoke to us about the Capitol riot, or J6 prisoners, who he has stated are political prisoners, and their status in our jails and what's going on with them from his position. He had a wonderful conversation. He spent almost 40 minutes with me, which is great. He's the executive director of Look Ahead America, which is working in several states across this nation to try and make sure our elections are secure. I advise you take a look, listen to that conversation. I think it was very revealing and beneficial to the public. And it is now up on YouTube. We posted that yesterday at noon. I hope that you do take a moment to see it. So I'm pissed off. And I think a lot of people in the 82nd Airborne Division, now located in Poland, have a similar feeling because, yeah, the brass would never do this. Generals wouldn't do this. Someone who's actually served in our military knows that is not supposed to be done. And that is insane. And it's upsetting to me. But I wanted to get that off my chest first. There's going to be a lot we're going to be talking about today. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. And as always, if you disagree, if you do not believe we have the right understanding, if there is better information, please provide it to us. You can call in, you can leave your comments on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. You can call into the program. We are always open to hear other voices because unlike progressives, unlike the Democratic Party at this moment, we do not demand that you must agree. We believe you're individuals and you have the right to voice your opinion. That's the First Amendment, and that's for everyone in the world. Let me move forward because I do want to address the problems that are happening right now with Ukraine, Russia, and how Biden has increased the problem as is in his trip in Poland, so much so that our allies are running away from Joe Biden, and it is making the world less stable because of what he just did in the last 2 days. It's insane. And it's just like what he's done in Afghanistan. He destabilizes regions. And I will show you the evidence of that. And I'm going to show you how our allies are running away from America right now. And the U.S. news media is downplaying this because they don't want you to understand the consequences of how we are escalating. And Joe Biden seems to be pushing America towards an active conflict with Russia, which could be quite devastating. I'm not telling you it's World War III. No. But it would be one of, I believe, what would be 3 regional world wars at the same time. And I think Biden and his administration are not thinking this through, and they are not realizing the consequences of this. That's what we love to talk about in this channel. Consequences, not just politicians doing something. God help us. They need to do the right thing, the most effective thing, the most efficient thing. And we need to hold them accountable to that. Mike Bowie mentions after Afghanistan, why would anyone go to war with this Joe Biden ever? I don't know. I think he is a miserable commander-in-chief, and I think he has the worst people like General Mark Milley, like Chief of Defense Lloyd Austin, I don't think they're doing a good job. I think they're endangering many of our troops because they're not thinking this through. Dow Grimm says, probably the optics would be interpreted as Biden just getting down with the troops. That is exactly how it has been portrayed in Twitter and NBC and many of the news media. Oh, they're having a great time. I don't think the average citizen understands military etiquette, the chain of command, and how the troops are going to, because they know this, they're not seeing it the same way. Veterans who are seeing that and seeing troops not be fed first, they understand disrespect as well. But the major news media, they're going to blow past that. They're going to suppress this. They're going to suppress this conversation because I'm telling you, with what he did and what military etiquette is and what is the proper action for a commander-in-chief. You've never seen a president eat before the troops, ever. Let me take a moment. And I see Agent Black, our friend from across the pond in the UK, says, the Russia-Ukraine conflict could have been solved diplomatically. Russia has been voicing their concerns for years. There's a lot of problems with the Russia-Ukraine conflict that is rooted in Russia and Ukraine. Neither of them are perfect. There are bigger problems. Russia is the bigger problem. The Ukraine is not innocent. But at the same time, look at what Biden has been doing step after step. I want to get to that. And I want to focus on that. I want to take a few moments, though. I want to address a couple of other concerns. And again, I will show you the receipts. I will show you the news media coverage across the world that will substantiate what I am talking about. I'm not just making an allegation. I want to give you the facts so that you can make up your mind and you can decide for yourself without bias of the major news media covering for President Biden because of politics. But I also want to take a moment because on this program, we also have been talking for months. Since the beginning of the year, actually before that, we have been telling you to be aware that there is a bird flu that is going through, the avian bird flu, the H5N1, I believe it is, bird flu that has been going around the world and in the United States. And now there are 570,000 chickens that are going to be destroyed in Nebraska. This is affecting New York State. It is in Vermont. I believe we've covered it in North Carolina as well. It is across the United States. Why is this important to you? Why do you care that there is a bird flu and millions of chickens have been destroyed? Poultry is being destroyed. Inflation. Because this is going to increase the costs. On top of what we've seen with the supply chain issues because of the pandemic and the issues that we are seeing from the Biden administration's economic policies, I need you to be aware this is going to affect the cost of chicken across the nation, and you need to be prepared. You need to, and we've been saying this for months now, since January, when we were telling you about the economy, since last year, February 2021, when we told you the economy was going into a tailspin, into a negative territory. We want you to be prepared. That doesn't mean panic buy food. It means maybe the next time you go out to the store, I know the prices are higher, buy another 10% of everything that you would buy, of canned foods, of foods that will last longer. And if I am right, when it comes to October into the fall of 2022, you're going to thank me because I believe prices are we're going to have an official inflation rate of 15%. You're going to see real world, you going out to the store, 35% increase in prices. And you're going to see a shortage, as the White House has already stated, there will be a shortage of food coming in the fall. Do yourself a favor, buy 10% more food. Maybe buy a packaged food, those emergency food rations. We are not paid by advertisers. We have no sponsors at the moment. We would like one. We don't have it. And so we're just telling you because we think that's the right thing to do this as a public service, to tell you buy 10% more food, canned foods, buy emergency foods. If we are wrong, if by some miracle the economy becomes beautiful and food is flowing around the world, and all of the estimates out there say we're wrong and there's food in abundance for everyone in the world, which I would love to see. I hope that's the outcome. And if we are wrong, you have extra food for you and your family. And if we are right, if the announcement of the food shortage is coming from the White House this week, if the predictions and projections across the world from economists looking at what's happening with a reduction in the amount of fertilizer that's going to affect food prices, the fact that we have this bird flu, which we've been telling you about for months, is affecting poultry. If we are correct, you will be able to feed your family, you will be prepared, and it will cost you less in the future. You have your choice. I'm not telling you that you have to do it. I'm not telling you to panic, but we do want you to be prepared. It doesn't hurt you to follow our advice on that. Let me go back to some of the comments because I want to hear what you have to say. And again, if you think I'm wrong, if you think, Mike, that's just fear-mongering, great, tell me why. Because I can show you the evidence of all the statements from the White House about food shortages. I can show you the statements around the world. I can show you, as I am and have been for the last couple of months, showing you about the bird flu and its influence. If you think I'm wrong, I'm happy to have that conversation. Let me get to some of the comments, though. Dow mentions in talking about commanders in our military, I don't think I can recall a historical or modern instance where commanders and regular enlisted even dine together in a non-active battlefield setting. It does happen for regular troops. I can tell you that in my time in service, and I know in others' time in service, your captain, a lieutenant, a captain, a major, even colonels may come down and spend time with the troops, especially during the holidays like Easter or Christmas, 4th of July. There are instances where they come, or just in general, to motivate troops and to keep a connection to those troops. They will, from time to time, mix in with the troops during regular activities. And in every instance, when they do that, they make a point to not disrupt the activities of the troops. They do not go in with the enlisted men and disrupt and make the life of the enlisted men harder, like denying them the ability to eat for God knows how long. Because as long as Biden was there, as long as the Secret Service were there, as long as it was that selected group with cameras going off by the media trying to promote Biden, I guarantee you there weren't people eating. They had to just sit there, God knows how long. So that's something. So I do want to make that clear. And ask anyone who has served in the military, they will tell you the same thing. Your captain will come in, he'll sit with you. He's going to be the last one on that line to get food. He's going to be the last one to sit down. He's going to be the last one to pick up his fork or a spoon and start eating any of that food. The last. Every single time. And again, that goes to a mindset about the value of those enlisted troops who are the first ones on the front lines fighting. Again, you can disagree with me if you want to, and I'll be happy to hear from anyone in the military who will tell me that I am wrong about that, because as my knowledge of military history, that's not incorrect. Hot Chicks has mentioned the cost of chicken, the cost user has been banned, mentions the cost of rice, the shrinkflation, which we have been talking about for years, that we're seeing smaller and smaller packages of food that are costing the same, the hidden inflation. And if you go out to stores, you know it's true. If you have cans of food, if you have boxes of food from just 2 years ago and compare the sizes of the portions of the food versus what you're seeing today, you know for a fact inflation is real. You're getting less food for the same price, and nowadays, over the last year, even for a higher price on smaller amounts. I'm telling you, be prepared, folks. It does not hurt you to be prepared. Agent Black, in speaking about Matt Gaetz, said that he would nominate President Trump for House Speaker in November. Yes, but that's a bit of politicking, Agent Black, to be honest. While it could happen, you can nominate anyone for the Speaker of the House. It doesn't have to be a member of Congress. It is highly unlikely in United States politics for anyone who is not a sitting member of the House of Representatives to have the Speaker of the House position. It's politic. So we have to be honest about that. That's just not a reality. Tina mentions we have 4 months worth of she has 4 months of MREs. They have a chicken, legs, and thighs for 99 cents a pound at our local store, Price Chopper. Stock up on a few packages and freeze them. And I agree. Dal mentions rice, canned proteins, vegetables, fruit, fortified drink mixes, powdered milk. These are things that can last long term. Again, I advise you, there is nothing wrong with that. Tina mentions she has 3 months of supplies just in case. And I tell you, and this is not, by the way, this is not just information for the United States. Anywhere in the world, this is a worldwide food shortage. The poultry that are dying in the United States, there are poultry in Europe. There are poultry in Russia. This bird flu is global. If you are hearing my voice, if you are watching this program, and I know I have people in India, in Peru, in Canada, in Australia, New Zealand, I know we are international. If you are watching this, if someone has asked you to watch this and you're seeing this part of the program, again, add 10% just for the next several months. Just buy 10% more. Buy things that will last longer. I'm telling you, it cannot hurt you, but global food prices are going up this fall. Separate of inflation and actually driving inflation, they will go higher based on the world conditions today. That is the consequence of what we are seeing right now, which the news media is not telling you. Perhaps because they're afraid of a panic. Perhaps because they know this would affect elections. I am not a politician. I'm not running for an elected office. I'm telling you because I think it's the best information I can provide to you based on the information that is available today. I'm doing it because I think it's good for you. User has been banned brings up a great point. Don't forget medications. Things that you can have. Again, don't panic buy. Don't go out there and buy every single hand sanitizer. Don't go out there and buy every toilet paper that's available in your stores. Don't do that. One, it's ineffective. Two, that's not going to help anyone. That causes a panic. I'm telling you, just 10% more than whatever you would normally get. But it doesn't hurt to have an extra bottle of, I don't know, aspirin, have an extra bottle of ibuprofen. I mean, this is a generic store brand of ibuprofen. Why not have one? It doesn't hurt. Just have a little bit more. And I'm telling you, I believe that will be in your best interest. And sadly, our views on economics around the world, and specifically in the United States, hasn't been wrong. We've been 80% correct in the predictions we make on this program, and that is documented. And I would like to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I don't believe that's the case. And Agent Black mentions that I'm correct in the United Kingdom, and I think this is true of every military in the world, at least in modern days. There is no military where a leader would eat before their troops. It just disincentivizes, it demotivates the troops. It's not a smart thing to do. Okay, looking at another one of the comments here. User has banned, mentions Mike Malice for speaker. That would be funny. That would be insane. But I would be interested to see Mike Malice. That would be a real turnaround in politics for sure. User goes on to say that A tank of nitrogen is good to have for storing certain foods and deep freezers, yes. Licensed doctors will consult with you about the common instances where antibiotics and other prescribed medications would be necessary. Yes, talk to your medical professional about how long you can hold on to certain types of medications so that they're still effective if there was a shortage of them. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you medical advice. I am giving you an opinion, and I am asking you to contact your medical professionals and to prepare. And I don't think telling you to get an extra bottle of aspirin, an extra bottle of ibuprofen is the same thing as medical advice. But in case the censors want to attack me again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm telling you to talk to your medical professional and to look into this for yourself. Because God knows the censors are after me this month. The month of October, Disney, Showtime, YouTube, Facebook, they have all attacked this channel because we're daring to talk to you and to give you the information and say, hey, what's the most likely consequence? When we see that 500, when this, for the last 2 months, we've been showing you bird flu, different states, 15 states in the United States, millions of poultry, of chickens are being killed and being destroyed because of their not being safe and sanitary. You know what? When we're the only ones doing that and they're attacking us for it, there's a problem. And I don't think it's us. Let me go on. Yeah, user says, I'm not surprised that since I read the news all the time, I have a bottle of ibuprofen next to me. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. It's some of this stuff drives me nuts. Speaking of going nuts, let's talk about international policy for the United States. I know people don't. The only thing worse than talking about economics in the United States is talking about foreign policy. Americans hate to talk about foreign policy. But as we can see with what's happened with Afghanistan, and as we see what's happening with Ukraine, we see that foreign politics is directly affecting America. It's affecting our ability, our food production around the world. It's affecting energy prices. That means you. It's affecting you. And I understand all the eco-fanatics are saying, well, no problem. We'll just get windmills and solar panels. Well, first of all, we get solar panels from China. China's on the same side or being driven to the same side as Russia. Do you think they're going to send us those solar panels right away? Besides the fact the solar panels aren't very effective, batteries, transmission of energy, not that effective. That's just a fact. You may not like that because you believe in green energy. It's not effective. That is a fact. Windmills, not effective. That is a fact. We've seen that in Texas last year in the winter as they froze. Not effective. It is not efficient. And so, yes, if you want to get solar panels, if you want to get a windmill and your community will allow you to do that, fantastic. Do that for yourself, but don't expect that that's going to work as a solution to oil and natural gas. It's not. That is a fact. It is documented. Even the left knows that. Go to Michael Moore's documentary, The Planet of the Humans, which we have reviewed. The left will tell you how inefficient that is. Don't count on that. Besides the fact that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Even if we wanted to go and do Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we took on the Green New Deal and we instituted, which we have reviewed that bill. You can look it up. We've covered that in detail. Even if you thought it was possible, even if we started that process tomorrow, it would take a decade to be able to implement that. So we have to deal with the reality. Foreign policy, foreign oil makes a difference, especially when we in the United States are not actually using our energy efficiently. And I know someone's going to say on the left, but Mike, there's 9,000 permits. It's the energy companies being greedy. Oh, they're just making more money. Stop for a sec. How many permits does it take to get oil or natural gas, even coal, from the mine or that drill site to you? Most people don't ask this question. The news media and politicians don't want you to ask this question. There are over 20 permits that are required, which include making a road from a city or a storage plant to that mine, to that drill site. You have to have a road so that you can move your trucks and your people to try and drill for oil and natural gas, which the Biden administration is not approving. You need to get a permit because of the very same eco-fanatics that say you can't disrupt the environment. So you need a there's a regulation, you need a permit to build a pipeline so that if you are able to get to that drill site and you are able to find oil, gas, coal, to be able to get that from that random spot in the middle of nowhere to your plant, your power plant, to give you the electricity so you can charge up your electric car or your electric bike. To be able to charge that up, you got to get that fuel to the power plant. That requires a pipeline. It requires roads and a pipeline. And the Biden administration isn't giving out the permits to build that pipeline. So when they tell you they've got 9,000 permits. Yeah, but they need something like 20,000 permits to actually do anything. It's not just greed. But that's a wonderful slogan. It's a 30-second soundbite to tell you, they've got permits. It's their problem. You talk to them. And if you do talk to the gas and oil companies, they will tell you, well, yeah, but we need another 10,000 permits for everything else that goes with it. Let me make this real simple for people so that you understand it in context. I'm not telling you to change your mind, but I want you to understand it in context and see how you are being used. You're being manipulated. It's the same thing as if I told you you have a brand new car. Oprah gave you a car today. The car happens to be in North Dakota. Now, this is assuming you're not in North Dakota. So, okay, it's in North Dakota. You just got given a car. By the way, you don't have a way to get to North Dakota. In fact, Oprah is making sure that you can't go to North Dakota. She is going to give you the car. You've got it. It's your car. You can use it. You just can't get to it. And by the way, you can't drive it on the road. But you have that car. It's yours. It's your car. You just can't drive it, and you can't get to it. Does that actually help you at all? Is there any benefit to you for having that car that you can't drive, that you can't get to? That is the situation with natural gas and oil in the United States at this moment, regardless of whether you think we should be using solar energy or wind energy or geothermal or, God forbid, ethanol, which I have studied for years and is actually destroying our oceans, which is why you don't hear about ethanol anymore. If you're over the age of 25, you've heard of ethanol in the past. Why don't you hear about ethanol today? Because it's destroying our environment. The very thing that we mandated, that the environmentalists made us use in our gasoline today, is destroying the Gulf of Mexico as we speak. It is destroying our environment as we speak. That is a fact. It's called deoxygenation of our water. Ethanol strips away the oxygen, kills the fish, kills the plants, kills the plankton. That is a fact. It is not an opinion. It is not a guess. It is a demonstrable fact that has been detailed, and we have a record of that going back 15 years. I know because I have researched it, I have spoken about it, I have seen the actual reports. So again, I want you to have full context and have a full and clear understanding of the consequences and the timeframes that are involved and how they are manipulating you, telling you a piece of the information because it's a great soundbite, without telling you the rest. They're omitting the rest of the information that would lead you to be able to make an educated understanding and decision about what's going on. And that's what this program is here for. Now, I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to give you the information and my conclusion. But I'll also give you the source. You can make your own decision. So, going back to some of the comments here. And again, as Dow mentions, talk to your local pharmacist, talk to your local doctor, and even talk to your local grocers and your butcher shop about what they're seeing coming to be prepared for the future. Users mentioned that solar energy is good for emergencies, which I agree. As long as you have batteries and you have the collectors, you can do well, but it doesn't make sense in a mass sense. It doesn't help because it is not efficient. One day it might be. I'm not saying that we can't use solar and wind. I'm not saying that we can't develop it more, but I am telling you that as of today and for the next 5 to 10 years, it's not efficient. That's the reality of the science. And remember, you have to go by the science, believe the science. And the science says it's not efficient. That is a fact. Not the headlines, not the Twitter feed. The science says it's not efficient. It doesn't work. Anyway, let me go on. And again, if you disagree, if you think I'm misunderstanding the facts, the evidence that is available, I'm happy to have that conversation. You can call into the program at 607-242-1582. We can have that conversation and we can go over the data. I have no problem with that. I will respectfully hear your opinion. But let me go forward. Because I want to, as I said, I want to talk about foreign policy. And let's talk about, and I'm very excited because I'm glad to be back out of the censorship, able to talk to you again. So let's talk about North Korea. North Korea, and you haven't heard a whole lot about this. North Korea fired 3 days ago. They sent out an intercontinental missile. If you have been following this program, especially the live stream, since January, we have been warning, actually before that even, we have been warning about North Korea. We have been warning people that this is one of the regions of instability in the world and that it is becoming more destabilized under the Biden-Harris administration. That Kamala Harris did no benefit to South Korea or the United States when she went down and insulted President Moon of South Korea when she disgraced him by wiping her hand after shaking hands, as was seen around the world, and we showed you the video of that. And that this is added to tensions in the region. And North Korea taking advantage of that, taking advantage of the absolute abysmal rout of the United States in Afghanistan, and seeing the instability that Russia is taking advantage of, that China is taking advantage of in threatening Taiwan, North Korea has fired 9, I'll say it again, 9 hypersonic missiles at Japan, our ally, threatening South Korea, our ally. And now, 3 days ago, they fired an ICBM. And why does that matter to people in America? Yes, they're firing missiles at Japan, our ally, which means if they hit Japan on purpose or by accident, we're involved. We have to be involved in that because of our agreements. But beyond that, I want you to see this. The missile they fired is expected, it is either a Hwasong 15 or 17, which means it can reach at least, we believe, 13,000 miles, possibly 15,000 miles. And it is believed that this may be the new 17 Hwasong 17 missile, which can go further than the 15. The 15 can reach anywhere in the United States. The 17 could reach anywhere possibly faster in the United States. You live in Iowa, they can bomb you in Iowa. If you live in D.C., if you're in Florida, you're in Kansas, you're in New York City, you're in L.A. That's what North Korea is building right now. That's what they're testing. The ability to bomb you anywhere in the United States with nuclear and or chemical weapons. That's the problem. And the Biden-Harris administration aren't dealing with it, which is why you're not hearing about this. I have to go. This is an article that is coming from the BBC News. This is coming from outside the United States, in the United Kingdom. And they are emphasizing the problem of why this is an issue. You can go to the Japanese news. I believe the Nippon Times is another source. You can go overseas and you will see that they are talking about this because this is a threat to Europe. This is a threat to the United States. It is a threat to Japan and South Korea, our allies. This is an imminent problem. And the Biden-Harris administration don't want to talk about it because it shows that Biden is a bad leader, that Kamala Harris is horrendous at international policy and negotiations, and that everything they're talking about, which are more sanctions, aren't working. They are not resolving the problem, and we need to do something about it because the consequence of just doing the status quo, of just letting this go by, is not making anyone safer. And if our allies, Japan and South Korea, are feeling like they aren't getting any help from America to deal with North Korea, as North Korea is building an ICBM, and we're not doing anything to help Taiwan, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think that's going to make the world safer? Or do you think it's going to make it destabilize and be less safe? Whether you're on vacation overseas or whether you're here in the United States, do you think this makes you safer or not? And before I get to the comments, I want you to understand one other thing. I want you to realize one other thing. North Korea is trading and makes trades with Iran. North Korea can trade oil for nuclear ICBM missiles that are not restricted by the Iran nuclear deal with North Korea. They can work and make that trade. That you can see Iran, with the sanctions removed for the Iran nuclear deal, Iran will be able to buy food and trade that food for information on how to build an ICBM, which Iran is not restricted from doing by the Iran nuclear deal that the Biden administration is working out right now. So that means Iran, working with North Korea, will get ICBMs, which then allows them to build nuclear weapons and chemical weapons. This is a problem. We need to do something about this before it gets to the next stage. Now, I've said a lot there. I've gone over a lot of detail. Let's slow down. Let me see the comments, and I want to hear what you think. Because if you think I'm wrong, if I have missed something, if I'm misunderstanding the evidence and the information, I want to correct that. If you have better information, if you have a better understanding of the conclusions that I am coming to, and it is different, I want to hear that. The world wants to hear that. If the world is going to be made safer, please share it with us. So let me go out here. But I'm trying to make this as clear as I can for people so that you understand without sound bites. This isn't something you can say in 30 seconds. That's what the news media wants to do. When you hear the nightly news talking to you, they give you 30 seconds to maybe a minute and a half to tell you a story about this. It took me 5-10 minutes to tell you this because there's details. Because there's information. It's not as simple as, oh, well, yeah, they fired a missile. Don't worry about it. You're out of your mind. If you think if you believe that because NBC said, oh, they fired a missile, But on to other news. Don't think about that. If you're not concerned about that, if you don't know if your members of Congress are concerned about that, if they're not talking about that at all, then there's a problem. And I don't think it's me. But let me go on. Dow says the JASE is a group of doctors realizing that the medical community may not be responsive enough in a crisis. We already know that the medical community is not responsive enough in crisis. We've seen that for the last 2 years, partially because we don't have enough doctors, because we are disincentivizing doctors in our schools, because we want to cap how much money that they can make. We want to limit what they are able to do. And we have a lot of paperwork, HMOs and so forth, surrounding them that they're drowning in red tape. We are making it less, we're giving them less of a reason to be a doctor. So we have, as a fact, in 2019, we were already short 1.3 million doctors in the United States, if I remember the evidence correctly. And we have not improved on that. In New York State, when appointed Governor Kathy Hochul fired 34,000 doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers, that made New York healthcare worse. We were less capable of being able to deal with situations after that fact, and she did that in September before the latest variant problems came about. Again, if the YouTube censors want to attack me on this, we have provided the video and documented evidence of this. Nothing I have said is incorrect. There was a shortage in 2019 of doctors and nurses and healthcare workers in the United States, which I believe was about 1.3 million, might be a little bit more. And that has not been resolved. And New York State did lose 34,000 doctors and nurses. It is documented. Again, I got to protect myself against these censors. They're going to try and find anything to shut down this conversation. Even if you disagree with me, I think you would agree the better answer is, if I'm wrong, show me the evidence. Tell me the evidence. 607-242-1582. And we can discuss it. Let me go on to the rest of the comments. Dow mentions, I apologize for repetition comments. YouTube is probably delaying and censoring this because they've been censoring me for a while. And Facebook as well, and Twitter as well. It's called shadow banning. It's not so much that they're preventing it, although occasionally they do. They're also making it hard for you to see it, which is another problem. User has been banned mentions, I wonder if North Korea is more likely to target cities than just targeting military targets. By the way, they think rather than they say Russia would be who want that first. I believe it's hard to say what North Korea would do. To be honest, Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, is untested. He seems to be erratic at times in some of the policy decisions he makes. So it's unknown, but we believe, or at least I believe, that if we're looking at him, what would be the most effective thing for him to do to get the world's attention? To attack a military base or to attack a city? And quite honestly, I don't think the technology that they have in their ICBMs and hypersonic missiles, I don't think they have the accuracy to guarantee that they could aim for a military base and they could hit a civilian. That's why I'm saying, in testing these hypersonic missiles, the 9 that have been fired so far this year since January, as we have documented on this program, at any one of them could hit Japan. They've been within about 300 miles of Japan so far. They could hit Japan by accident because that's why they're testing it. They don't have good guidance system. So the problem isn't just that they actually target civilians. They may hit civilians by accident. Again, upping the problem why this is hard. Let's see here. Asian Black mentions, not saying that we're providing wrong information in this case, but the BBC is far worse than CNN. Asian Black, you're correct. and I know you're in the UK, you know the BBC and the Guardian. I'm not saying that BBC or Guardian are not biased. In fact, I'm not saying that there is any news media agency, major news media agency, that doesn't have a bias. I'm not telling you that I don't have a bias. What I am telling you is, taking into account the bias, let's understand what it is. That there is less information in the United States about these issues, and that is a problem when we can go around the world and see it is an issue for the rest of the world. That the American people are being denied information and omitting facts that the rest of the world is focused on, and that eventually, the United States will react to, because we have to. We don't have a choice. We have to react to this at some point. But the reason why they're delaying it seems to come back to, it's 2022. There is a midterm election, and it's not good for the parties in power, the Democrats and progressives in power, to tell you this. It is not in their best interest to let you know all of the details, because they will lose political power. And that is the worst reason for censorship ever. It's one thing if you're telling me, well, I don't want to cause a panic. It's another, which I think you can answer by taking more than 30 seconds and having a conversation with people. It's another thing to say, I don't want you to know that because it affects elections. Kind of like the New York Times taking 2 years to tell the public that the Hunter Biden laptop is real, something that was already confirmed and was already investigated. And we have every reason to believe that the New York Times knew day one that it was true and verified, but they waited 2 years. Why? Because it could have an impact on an election, and they let it go. And after 2 years, when it became too much, there's just too much going on to keep hiding this, they tried to very, very quietly say, oh, well, yeah, it's true. Let's go on. And remember, it was only 2 sentences in the middle of another story where they finally said, oh, yeah, by the way, we admit it's real. 2 sentences in the middle of a story. They didn't say, here's our breaking news, we confirm this. They said, by the way, in a related note, on a different story we're talking about, we did confirm this. By the way, let's keep going. Don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to the fact that the New York Times actively manipulated elections that we have seen from polling, says could have had an impact. And I know the 2020 election was the most safe, secure election we have ever seen. Don't worry about the audits that have been going on and some of the work that Look Ahead America has done about those audits. Let's not concern ourselves with election integrity, as we have been hearing from Look Ahead America and other organizations trying to work on. Let's not consider any of the reversals of laws that have occurred in Pennsylvania and Michigan and across the nation at this time, reversing policies, laws that were instituted at the last minute. It was the safest, most secure election that has ever occurred. And you can have whatever opinion you want with that. I am not allowed to make a comment about it on this channel. So we'll take that as it is. And Agent Black mentions there's many reasons why we see that the media has been covering up and minimizing stories like child sex abuse, sex slavery, which sometimes is called, what do they call it? Human bondage, not human bond. They call it human bondage sometimes in the stories, the human trafficking. They call it human trafficking. That's called slavery. Human trafficking is slavery. Let's use the word that it actually is. It's not good for the algorithms, but that's what it is. It's slavery. Slavery exists in the world today, in Africa, in the United States, and other parts of the world. Slavery exists. It's called sex trafficking. It's called human trafficking. It's called child trafficking. It's slavery. It's just not a good word. And the word slavery has been co-opted by the progressives to refer to exactly one thing in the United States, nowhere else in the world, And it doesn't, and if you're listening to groups like Black Lives Matters and these critical race theorists, what you're hearing is, oh, well, slavery is only an American problem and it only happened right before the American Civil War and during that time period. No. Slavery exists right now in the world today. It is real. Just look at the news about Boko Haram. Forget about those guys from about 4 years ago. Remember, it was Michelle Obama sending out hashtags about we give our girls back, which did nothing to help those girls. In fact, they were slaves. Slavery exists. It's real in the world. And yes, the media downplays this because it's not politically advantageous. If you think I am wrong, I am happy to have the conversation, and let's go through the definition of what sexual trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking is, and let's look at the definition of slavery. Not just American slavery, the definition of it. Let's look at it historically, and we can see which one is which. And I'm pretty sure at the end of that conversation, looking at the definition, I am right. Let's not play games with words because we're trying to protect political entities. That's my point of view. If you think I'm wrong, again, I will have that conversation. We'll go through. I'll spend the show looking up the definitions for you and showing you the evidence. Let me continue on to catch up with some of the comments because, yes, I am behind. I know I'm behind on the comments. I'm going to get to them. Hang on, folks. Yes, we've seen much of the news media have a bias, and we've seen that with CNN. How many times have we seen CNN come out with false stories that they have gotten the facts absolutely wrong, that we have seen CNN and the New York Times lie to the public 6 months after the fact, tell us the truth about what's actually going on? Remember Russia collusion? It was a fact. Rachel Maddow, 3 years on her program, every night. Adam Schiff on her program on a regular basis, promising you there was Russia collusion. It was the Trump administration. Absolutely a lie. Did not happen, not real. If anything, all evidence points to the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign. All evidence that is relevant points to them, not to Trump or Russia. That is a fact. It has been reported by the New York Times and CNN and other news media now very quietly because it's not politically advantageous to tell you the truth. I have a problem with major media. That's why I don't look at any one of them. I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch MSNBC. I will look at some of the clips, but I also look at 22 other sources around the world because I don't trust any of them. Neither should you. And don't trust me. That's why I'm going to provide you the links at the end of the show. It's why I show you the information on screen so that you can make up your own mind and read the articles for yourself. Let's continue. By the way, let me take a moment to say, if you have made it this far in the program, I thank you, I love you, I welcome you. If you are new to the program, I thank you for taking the time to be with me this far. I want you to know, please help us. Like, share, subscribe. Because we want to reach more people, to hear more people's opinions about the issues that matter to us all. Because I think that makes our governments more effective by making them more accountable to us. So I ask you, please like, share, and subscribe, especially subscribe, so that the algorithms are not as capable of shutting us down, which is what they have been doing because they're taking advantage of you and me being distracted by Russia and other issues around the world and trying to shut down your voice. Because that's what this program is about. It's your voice. I'm listening to you. So let me continue on with the comments. Dow mentions that he saw in a report 2 years ago that the capping of the number of doctors in the United States had to do with residency system used to graduate doctors. The process has become harder. That's true. It places a cap on the area of about 100,000 because of regulated residency positions when teaching hospitals. Well, that's also because we are disincentivizing people from even going into that field in the first place by saying, and we've been hearing people demand, yeah, but they have a limit on how much money they can get, which is less interesting, and that we are increasing their paperwork and making it harder for them to make a profit. Because there are some people who don't believe you should have the ability to make unlimited amounts of money. And when we do that, we disincentivize people from going into fields that we need them in, like doctors. That is my opinion. And you can tell me that you think I am incorrect. But that's about not medicine. That's about policy and the impact of policy. It's about economics. Again, for the censors that are watching this program. Mike Bowie. Hey, Mike, it's good to see you here. Thank you for being with us. Mike Bowie says, maybe we should use code words to get around censorship. Trust me, I already am, and I try as hard as I can, but does not limit them. But I'm not trying to use newspeak. I'm not trying to be 1984. I'm trying to be able to discuss with you the issues and let you be able to discuss them as well. That's a limit on me, not you, because I believe you have the right to speak. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the internet overlords, the major news media, they don't agree. Hello, Jesse. Good to see you here with us. Yes, the comments are going Mileman. It's great. I want everyone to speak. And again, I invite people who disagree with me. I invite the progressives, the left, the progressive leaders of tomorrow, the Democratic Socialists of America, especially the Ithaca chapter that believes in violence. I invite them to be here and to have their voice, as long as they are respectful to give their point of view. And I am paying attention. If you notice, most of the things I point to and I show you in this program are left-leaning sites. This is their point of view. I'm not giving you Fox News. I almost never use them as a source. I go to the left to let you know that there is more information out there and that there are consequences, and we need to pay attention to that. Let me continue. Because North Korea, I mentioned North Korea and that they could be working with Iran because they have they've been having conversations with Iran amongst other countries, and that they are trying to make agreements with Iran. And remember, I'm talking about the Iran nuclear deal, which you can go to the AP News. It came out just before the show started that Blinken is trying to make sure that we get the Iran nuclear deal. This is pure politics, folks. This is nothing but blatant politics. Because Blinken is running around the world and he's going to the Gulf, all of the Middle Eastern nations that have worked with Israel, the 4 of them that made peace treaties under the Trump administration in 2020. He's going to them and to Israel to try and convince them that the Iran nuclear deal is going to be good. Except they are telling him, no, it's going to increase global terrorism. That in taking away the sanctions and allowing Iran to sell oil, especially to the United States, yes, the United States wants to buy oil from Iran, a nation that supports global terror, the number one funder of global terror in the world, that the United States wants to buy oil from them. And Israel and the Gulf states, Middle East, have said that John Kerry was right in 2016 when he was Secretary of State under the Obama-Biden administration, when he went in January of 2016 and told the American people that the United States was indirectly funding global terror. And Iran is about to do that again. And Israel and the Middle East are saying, don't do that. That will not make anyone safe. And the exact quote from the AP is, quote, both Israel and its Gulf allies also believe that relief from economic sanctions will allow Iran to step up its military activities across the region, including support for hostile militant groups. But Secretary of State Blinken for the Biden administration says, that the United States believes restoring the nuclear deal is the best way to put Iran's program back in the box it was in. Our commitment to the core principles of Iran never acquiring a nuclear weapon is unwavering, except one, the Iran nuclear deal does not prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. It does not prevent Iran from firing an ICBM. It does not prevent Iran from funding global terror. So even if Iran decides in their own best interest to not create a nuclear missile immediately, it does not, the Iran nuclear deal does not stop them from funding global terror and having terrorist cells around the world attacking people in England, in the European Union, in the United States, as they did in 2016. Oops, that was odd. So it does not protect the United States. It does not stop global terror from becoming worse. Let me ask you folks, does that make sense on why I am coming to that conclusion? Does it not make sense to you? Because I know YouTube, the internet overlords, don't like me sharing this information with you and telling you the obvious conclusion based on the facts that we have. You can tell me, Mike, you don't agree with my conclusion. The facts remain what they are. We know what Iran will do with an Iran nuclear deal because we've seen it already. We saw it in 2016. We saw it in 2017. We saw it. We saw it in 2015. We saw this already. We saw what they did. And what they did is create more terror cells around the world. They funded more missiles and rockets to terrorists like Hamas around the world, and they killed more people through those terrorist organizations around the world. That is a fact. It is documented. It is not a question. And we're about to do it again. Because Biden wants to look tough. Because Biden needs a win so that Democrats in 2022 can come out and vote. This is about elections. It is about America's elections. It is about the Democratic Party maintaining its power, using the rank and file Democrats as a tool, manipulating their emotions to make them think, see, we did something. I really hate that. We did something, and therefore you are safe now. Reelect us. That's the message that the Biden-Harris administration are putting out. That's what the Democratic Party is putting out. And I guarantee you, if you ask Democrats right now, like I have been asking of Representative Antonio Delgado of the New York 19 for 7 months, you will get no answer. They will refuse to answer you. They will tell you that they want your money. They will tell you that they will send out a weekly broadcast saying how great they are. They won't answer the question. And I specifically point out New York 19 Representative Antonio Delgado, who as I have shown you, I have done videos where I've shown the letters that I have mailed to him and his staff. I have shown you the videos where I am commenting on his Facebook page and his Twitter page, speaking directly to him. I have shown you where I have commented on his live streams, asking him questions, and he refuses to respond. His staff refuse to respond, even though he is now, sadly, my congressman because of gerrymandering, and he won't talk to constituents, except to get money and to get petitions signed and to say that he's great. That's a problem. That's not effective. That's not efficient. That's not someone, in my opinion, that deserves to be reelected. And I should add in, I have said for 7 months that Representative Antonio Delgado is welcome on this channel at any time to answer the questions I have posed to him and take as much time as he needs to explain his position. And I will provide that to the public, if not live, without edit, as we have never edited any interview we have presented, ever. He will be able to say whatever he wants for as long as he needs or wants to do so to answer the questions we have presented. And he denies this. He has refused. We are in conversations at this moment with his opponent, who is Mark Molinaro, who is running for the New York 19 in the new gerrymandered districts, according to New York State. And we are working on trying to set a time to have an interview with Mark Molinaro. And like we have done with every Democrat we have interviewed on this channel, every Republican, every Libertarian we have interviewed on this channel, including the congressional medal winners like Dr. Art Laffer, like we did with Larry Sharp, like we have done with vice presidential candidates, and like we most recently did for Matt Brainerd of Look Ahead America. We will provide you every word uncut. No one in the news media, major news media, will do the same thing. They never have in the past, and they won't do it now. I will treat any candidate, any qualified candidate of any party with due respect and give them the opportunity to answer your questions in full, in context, and no one else will do that in the news media, in the major news media. I will. So that's open for Antonio Delgado. I know his staff see this channel. Answer me. Even if it's to say no, answer me. And if you do say no, Representative Delgado, tell me why. So let me go on. Dal mentions that according to the progressives, silence is violence. Words are violence. Microaggressions are violence. Criticism is violence. And macroaggression is violence. It's ridiculous. Yeah, the answer is you are not meant to think or to comment. That's the whole point. You're not supposed to respond. You're supposed to just, okay, here's the 30 seconds. Now go on to the next thing. Be distracted by the next thing. Don't consider what's going on. That's why they don't want to tell you, again, as we started the show, food, inflation. They don't want you to think about food or inflation. They don't want you to think about energy prices. They don't want you to think that the electric car that they're telling you to buy that you can't afford is powered by the same oil and gas they're telling you is bad for you. They don't want you to think about that. They just want you to say yes and to vote for them in an election. And I don't care if they're a Republican, a conservative, a Democrat, a progressive, a libertarian. I hold them all accountable in the same way. This is ridiculous. We all should. So, Dow says he has seen some of our comments on Twitter trying to reach out to Representative Antonio Delgado and supporters of Antonio Delgado trying to change the subject to talk about Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who I know and is a friend of this channel, who has also appeared on this channel and has answered our questions in the past. So, yeah, they do not want anyone to answer a question that is not approved, and that is a problem. By the way, and this is, again, verifiable fact. Remember, folks, since January, actually, since December, we have been talking about the Ukraine-Russia crisis and the war that has now come about. If you go back and you can see the videos, they still are listed, other than the ones that YouTube has deleted. They are still there, and if they deleted them on YouTube, by the way, go to BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, all the rest, and you'll be able to see them there. But we have been telling you that the goal of Russia isn't to take over the Ukraine. It was never really their goal. That was their side benefit. That if they could take over the Ukraine, they would. But what they really wanted was the eastern portion, the Donbas region of the Ukraine, and the southern region, like Mariupol, to give them access to the Black Sea and to the Mediterranean, and to give them the food and uranium that is available, and to give them more power into Ukraine to set up a puppet government in the future. They don't, Russia wins, they've already won. They've captured the areas that they need. They have always done that. They're just getting extra so that when they start negotiations, they can say, we're going to give you back the northern region of the Ukraine, but we're keeping the south and the east. It is a bargaining chip. And they know it. And we've been telling you that since December that this was going to happen. And here it is today, March 27th. And you see from Reuters, Ukraine says Russia wants to split the nation, calls for more arms. Of course they want to split the nation. That has always been their number one goal. So when the news media is telling you that Russia is losing, remember, Russia didn't want all of the Ukraine. They wanted the south. They wanted the east. They've got that. Russia is getting exactly what they wanted, and they're trying to get extra. That's the thing to keep in mind. But the news media is now saying what we said back in December. That's how obvious. And by the way, I'm not brilliant. I am not the smartest man watching and having this program right now. I am not the smartest man in international politics. I'm not the smartest man in New York State. Never said I am. But I am looking at the consequences. And if I can tell you some of these things months ahead of time, so can the thousands of people who work at the New York Times. So can the thousands of people who work at CNN, or the thousands at MSNBC, or the thousands that are at the BBC. They can tell you this. They won't. You should ask why. In fact, the thousands and tens of thousands that work at Facebook and YouTube and Google and all the major news media, not only won't they tell you this information, they don't want me to tell you this information, to tell you what I think. Just one man with a growing channel. We want to get to 1,234 subscribers. One man with a growing channel. A man, I'm in poverty. I have no money. Literally, I have no money. I am not a challenge to CNN or to MSNBC. Not today, I'm not. I'm not a challenge to the New York Times. Not today, I'm not. And they are terrified that I am having this conversation with you because you may think. That's important. You should consider that. Whether you agree with me or not. It's not important whether you agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. The fact that I am asking you to think about the conclusions based on the facts that are there, that's why they're upset. They're upset because this live stream is reaching around the world, and people from the United Kingdom, like our good friend Agent Black, that people across the United States and in Australia and across the world are watching this program and making comments. That's why they're terrified. Because you are thinking for yourself, and you might come up with an unapproved idea, and that is deadly to them. That is why this channel gets shadow banned and why we get suppressed. And I'm not going to back down. Let me get back to some of the comments. Dow mentions, obviously, the silence of Representative Delgado and his staff means that you do not require a response from him. Not that he is silent on the issue, but the truth is something that would undermine his power. I would imagine that's why he's never answered any of my questions, especially about the Americans currently abandoned in Afghanistan, which no one has a clear answer on. That the Biden-Harris administration have lied to the American people's face. That literally Secretary of State Blinken has gone on national TV and lied to your face. That the number is somewhere in the hundreds, if not thousands of Americans that have remained since August 31st in Afghanistan against their will because the Biden administration doesn't want to look bad politically because they have an election to win in 2022. And if there's any member of Congress, any member of the Senate that wants to dispute this, fantastic. How many Americans are in Afghanistan right now? That is how simple they can answer this. What is the confirmed actual number of Americans in Afghanistan right now? Since September, the number has been 100, 85, 249, 6, 185. The number has changed almost every single month. How many Americans are in Afghanistan right now that were abandoned by the Biden administration on September 1st of 2021? They will not answer that question. They will avoid that question. Their candidates will not address that question. They don't care. Those people don't exist anymore. Guess what? There's 20 to 30,000 Americans that were in the Ukraine, including children, that Joe Biden went on NBC with Lester Holt and told you, the American people and the world, that he will not save, even as they get bombed. He doesn't care. Do you think the rest of the world is a little less sure that Joe Biden is their ally and will stand up for them, like Japan, like South Korea, like France, Germany, the United Kingdom, China, Canada? Will we stand up for our allies, Taiwan? Will we stand up for these people if Joe Biden won't even stand up for the American people? By the way, this is not just a problem here in the United States. I'm going to get to the comments in 1 second. It's not just a problem for the United States. Let me ask you something. Why not voting allows bad politicians to continue? March 26th of 2022. Why not voting allows bad politicians to continue? This is the biggest problem. This is the reason why people are not voting. They are deterred. And if you're wondering and if you're reading the screen, you'll notice something. This isn't an American problem. This is South Africa. South Africa. But this is the exact same problem in the United States. That South Africa is having the exact same problem. And they say, when it comes to being politically involved via the ballot box, South Africans, especially young people, are generally apathetic. Many people turn to protests to show their discontent with issues such as service delivery, but this happens instead of, rather than in addition to, voting. This apathy is evidenced in low voter turnout during elections. Gee, does that not sound exactly like the United States? You could substitute the United States for South Africa. You could substitute New York State or Arizona or California or anywhere in the United States in that same paragraph, and it would be exactly the same thing. Because, like in South Africa, in the United States, our politicians, the leadership, the ones in power, and possibly those not, don't care. This isn't about giving you a reason to vote. They just want you to approve of what they are doing and continue to maintain their power base. They actually don't want more people voting. They just want their people voting. And if you disagree with me on that, 607-242-1582. You can call in and tell me why I'm wrong. I've been talking about voter apathy since 2010. That isn't something current. I've been talking about it since 2010. I have the videos and the receipts to prove it. This is a bigger issue. And it's sad when we can look at South Africa with their many, many problems, and the United States is doing the same thing. You know why? In my opinion, I think America is showing South Africa how to do it. South Africa is copying what they are seeing in the United States. Because if the most free nation in the world can get away with this kind of manipulation of voters, then every other country in the world can get away with it, because they'll say, well, if America can do it, why can't I? America's free. America's supposed to be the leader of the world. America's supposed to be the greatest nation in the world. And if they're doing it, then why can't another nation do exactly the same thing? And that's why you see voter apathy growing, because America isn't focusing on getting more people to vote, to motivate people to vote. They're trying to isolate who is voting. It's not that you don't have the ability to vote. You do. Black people can vote in America as easily as anyone else in America. Hispanic Americans, Chinese Americans. If you are an American citizen, you can vote. No one is stopping you from voting. But certain political groups don't want you to vote. They would prefer that you won't go out and vote. They want their people to vote. And in fact, some of these political groups, like in New York City, like in San Francisco, are so eager to nullify your vote, they are allowing non-citizens to vote. 800,000 non-American citizens will be voting in 2022. And there isn't a separate ballot just for them. They're voting on the same election ballot you're voting on. And it's up to, hopefully, the election board, somebody, to go through all 800,000 of their votes and to say, hey, this isn't an American citizen. This vote doesn't count. Do you think that in New York State, in San Francisco, in the parts of the country where they are allowing non-citizens to vote in your election to change your life, that they are going to go, those same people who allowed them to be able to make that vote, do you think they're going to stop that vote, that they're going to throw that away? That's an opinion. It's a question. It is a question I am asking. I am not alleging anything. I am asking a question. By the way, check out Matt Brainerd's comments, which I have linked to, on election integrity and thumbprint verification of every ballot. Every ballot. I think you'll find it interesting. So going back to the comments. Hot Chicks thinks the show is going great. I hope so. I'm trying. User says, it's like Yuri said, they won't realize until the boots are on the neck. Even then, they will blame themselves. I heard there's a nonprofit who's been trying to smuggle Americans out of Afghanistan. There are several organizations trying to get Americans out of Afghanistan right now. Those organizations do not include the United States State Department Undersecretary Blinken, which is part of the reason why you have not heard the United States government refer to Afghanistan pretty much since October of 2021. It is a verboten word. They will not speak about it because they don't care. And they want you to forget that there's Americans in Afghanistan. Go around America right now, I imagine probably one to three Americans on average walking down the street don't know that there are Americans still in Afghanistan. They just don't know. Probably higher. And yes, illegal aliens are allowed to vote in New York City and several other spots across the United States. It is terrifying. I know, there's lots of people talking. I love it. And by the way, no one is required, and for all those people who are on the left who might be watching part of the program or all of the program, and you're welcome to do that. I'm happy to see you here. I want you to understand, no one is required to agree with me. Everyone can disagree. I ask for it on a regular basis to respectfully disagree and say, Mike, you don't agree. People call in sometimes, and people I know, people who are friends with me, people who don't know me will call in and say, well, we don't agree. And that's okay. This is a conversation. Conversations do not require you to submit your will and just blindly say yes. And anyone, any organization, I don't care what they represent, if they say you don't have a voice and you must agree, they're evil and they're wrong. I don't care what, whether left, right, anywhere, I don't care. If they say you don't have a voice and you must agree because you're a man, a woman, or a man, because of your religion, there is no choice. Oops. Thought I heard something here. So I think that's true. Well, I try and I'm glad people are missing the program. I'm glad people are watching it. And, provided that we get more, we have the funding, we'll expand to more and more different formats, different internet outreaches to be able to reach more people. We'll try. So let me go into Jeremy's Razors. Have you heard about that? Folks, I love their commercial. Jeremy's Razors, which is the effort by Daily Wire to compete with Harry's, because Harry's has decided to go down the woke business model, kind of like Gillette went down the woke business model that tells you you are wrong for having an opinion that they don't agree with. That's what Harry's has said. That's what Gillette has said. And so Daily Wire said, well, I have a better answer. We'll do our own product, and you're not required to agree politically with us. You can have whatever political opinion you want. I approve of that. I agree with that statement. I agree with that idea. And I loved the ad. I thought it was the funniest thing. But I do have to mention, they're not perfect. Daily Wire is getting those razors made in China. I only learned about this yesterday. I only found out about this yesterday, that the razors are being made out of China. And I do fault Jeremy's Razors for the fact that they're not using American sourcing, American manufacturing. Their answer is that it is not possible to do that because there is no razor makers, no manufacturing in the United States to do this. I fault them for that. I call them out on not using American sourcing, or even our friends in the European Union or somewhere else in the world besides China. Anywhere else in the world except China. But given that, I still stand by the fact that they have made the choice to say that you decide to have another choice. You do not have to fund the woke messaging, that you don't have to agree with Gillette. You don't have to agree with Harry's Razors. You don't have to fund their political philosophies when you don't agree with it. Yeah, I'm like you, user. That I wish we could go back where we could just have our products, because I don't care about the politics of the CEO of any of these companies. I don't care. I don't want, they're just another, by the way, they're not more important than you. They're just another person. They're just people. Oh, wow. We got Hal Stewart here. Hal says the America Shaving Company is made in America. Okay. I'm not familiar with them. I haven't seen advertising for them. So I stand corrected. And again, Hal, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that Jeremy's Razors can't make the razors in America. As I understand, Jeremy's Razors are saying they can't make them in America. So I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying that. That's their reason for making the razors in China. And again, I call them out on that. I think they should use any country in the world other than China. But I do also stand by the reason that they decided to make razors anyway, which is because you shouldn't be railroaded into supporting this political ideology or another one. And I think that all the companies are wrong for trying to make you align with a political ideology by buying their product. That shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be having to choose, do I want this brand of eggs? Do I want this brand of jeans? Do I want this car because of my politics? That just divides America, and that is bad. We shouldn't be divided by, oh my God. Okay, so as a point, let me make a point here. Just because I have this bottle of soda doesn't mean that if you see me down the street and I'm drinking this bottle of soda, that I agree with that political ideology. But they want you to think that. They have made it very clear that this company wants you to think that if you are using this product, you support the critical race theory that white people are inherently evil and black people are inherently victims. That's critical race theory. There's a problem with that. Maybe, just maybe, this was the only thing available in the time frame I had to be able to do this, my job. And so I had to grab this so that I could be able to properly do my job. And I don't agree with their political ideology. I reject the political ideology of this company, which you know who it is, and I don't agree with them. I think critical race theory is abhorrent. It is racist. It is insanely divisive, and it is horrendous. And I don't like this company. And literally, if I didn't have the choice, if I had a choice at the time, I would have picked almost anything else and been happy about it. But just because I do have this does not mean I endorse them or that I support their ideology. And we shouldn't have to be forced to make that choice. Shouldn't have to be there. It tells you how badly people have been trying to divide America, that just using a product is somehow meant and seen these days as an endorsement of an ideology. That's not the point. That's why we have politics and political parties. It's not why we should have companies. If you think I am wrong, let me know. But that shouldn't be what America's about. That shouldn't be what all countries are about. User mentions that critical race theory victimizes everyone in some way. No. Critical race theory is about racism and dividing people. Okay, I do want to get into Katanji Brown Jackson, SCOTUS, in just a second. The soda's fine. Okay, so everyone knows we're going to be going into KBJ, as she's called, Katanji Brown Jackson, in just a few moments. By the way, I'm happy to hear anyone call in. I want people to know, if this is the first time you're seeing the show, you are always able to speak about anything that you want to. Just because I have a list of things that I want to go over, especially after being silenced for a week, has nothing to do with you being able to say whatever you want. You want to bring in a different subject, you think we should be talking about something that I didn't cover, I'll be happy to go over it. I just want you to also understand how bad the United States is being seen around the world. Because I meant to mention this when I was talking about the troops. And I'm going to talk about this in another context in terms of how the world is reacting to the fact that in the last 24 hours, Biden says that U.S. troops are going to go to Ukraine, that Biden has said the Russian president needs to be removed from power. He is escalating the problem, and the world is running away. And I just want you to make sure you understand the news media is trying to cover this, and I'm going to go into it. But at the same time, we have idiots in our own nation. Bill Maher is a bad guy. I have said that on this channel. I have done videos on this channel. I have shown you over years. He is a bad guy. Bill Maher is perfectly happy with letting you be homeless, to lose your job, to be in a recession. He has said that. He said that in 2020. He has said that he's perfectly fine with women being sexually assaulted because the election was more important. Bill Maher said that. I believe it was May of 2020 when he said that. Bill Maher said that. You can look it up. I've done videos on it. Bill Maher is a bad man. Recently, Bill Maher has been getting some credibility, some bump in his viewership because he said some of the things that I have said on this program, that you have said to me on this program and around the country, that the progressives are out of their mind and have gone far too far. But this week, and yes, this is coming from Fox News. It's the only time you're going to see them, one of the few times you'll see them on this channel. He says, and I want to quote this. This is Bill Maher. Bill Maher says, "We have the first black woman, the first black we ever had. We've only had two, Thurgood Marshall, 1967. When he died, it was George Bush. The first was president." And so they accepted the idea that was now a black seat on, that there was now a black seat on the court, and that's how we got Clarence Thomas. Now I thought it was not exactly crooked to give the black seat to somebody who didn't represent the majority of black thinking in America, but here's the difference. At least they accepted George Bush. George Bush did, or what George Bush did, the idea of at least one black seat on the court. I think that today's Republicans would not do that. I think they would be thrilled to have no black seats on the court, Bill Maher said. Bill Maher is a racist. I can't say the word. Let me be clear. First of all, let's be very clear about something that Bill Maher says. There are black Republicans. I am a black Republican. I am perfectly happy to have a black Supreme Court justice, a white Supreme Court justice, an Asian Supreme Court justice, a Hispanic Supreme Court justice, a male or female, a gay or straight, a transgender member of the Supreme Court. I don't care. Because as I have said, every single time this kind of crap comes up, I want the most qualified person, period. I don't care about the color of their skin. I don't care about their genetics and how they were born. I don't care where they were born as long as they are a United States citizen. That isn't the criteria. That isn't a qualification. That isn't important. That is racist, potentially sexist. It is potentially violating people's sexual preferences. It is evil and wrong and divisive. And Bill Maher has always been divisive and a problem. This gets me very upset. And you may think I'm wrong. You may say, Mike, you just don't get it. But let's start off with, there are black Republicans. That's one. Two, Bill Maher doesn't speak for black Americans. Any of them. Bill Maher speaks for Bill Maher. Fantastic. Maybe you'll even say Bill Maher speaks for the left. He does not speak for black Americans. The left does not equal black Americans. They're not the same. It is not a one-to-one transfer, nor should it be expected to be. If we are Americans and if we are valuing Americans as individuals, then we realize some Americans, based on their personal values, will agree with libertarians or conservatives or Republicans or Democrats or progressives. And that's okay. Or maybe they agree with the Green Party. Maybe they agree with straight out communism. I don't know. but they have that right. And you do not get to superimpose your political views on everyone else as a group just because you want to. Not without some kind of proof, not without some kind of evidence. Bill Maher doesn't get to speak for black people. Not because he's not black, because he doesn't know what he's talking about, because he is discounting a large group of people. We know Hispanics, as an example, are overwhelmingly conservative people. That is a fact. Blacks, Black Americans are overwhelmingly conservative in their social interaction. That is a fact. It's been documented. Voting is separate of that. To say that, and I want to get this right. So Clarence Thomas is a Republican. He is black. And Bill Maher is saying, well, that's it. You've got your quota. It's full. Republicans who put Clarence Thomas on, they didn't have to. They didn't have to pick Clarence Thomas. They didn't have to have Clarence Thomas be on there. There is no, it's a black seat. What? We're signing seats? So where's what? And this goes into the idea that we need to pack the court, because now there has to be a seat for someone who's Asian. There has to be a seat on the court for someone who's Hispanic. There has to be a seat on the court for someone who's short, someone who's fat, someone who's tall, someone who's skinny, someone who's trans. Let's keep going down the list on the types of numbers of people. There'll be 1,700 people on the Supreme Court because there's 1,700 different types of people in the world. God, this is insulting and aggravating. If you stop to think about what he is saying, it is insulting at its core. That the Supreme Court, a seat on the Supreme Court, depends on your race, the color of your skin, and the way you were born. You were born male, female, you have a sexual preference, you have a certain color of skin. These things are the reason why you get a seat on the Supreme Court. Not because you're good at being a lawyer, not because you're good at being a judge, not because you understand the Constitution, because of the color of your skin and the gender you were born with. I do not understand how anyone cannot be angry at that. Forget about Katanji Brown Jackson. Throw her out the window for a second. I don't care. Don't talk to him. Listen to what he is saying. That not the most qualified person, not the best person, not someone who knows what they're doing, and someone who will be good for America. It's a check box. He is relating every member of the Supreme Court and also every American. You are a checkbox, and if you don't fit in a checkbox, you don't exist. And you are only as valuable as the box that he is checking off. Bill Maher has never been a good person. And I do not agree with that line of thinking, that critical race theory, propaganda, divisive poison. You might, and that is fine. I don't. And I'm having that argument with professors in a college. I literally have professors in a college who are trying to tell me how to be black because they believe in the critical race theory, just like Bill Maher. And I will tell you that as racist, it is insanely vile. Anyway, let me get to the comments. So Tina had said, you should never know the political or social views of teachers or companies. They should be neutral and private. Yes, there is freedom of speech, but when you are representing a company, you need to tread lightly. I don't generally believe in boycotting, but unfortunately, woke America, that's all we have to fight those ideas that are destroying freedom and America, our hard-earned dollars. And you're right. Where's the neutrality? We shouldn't be asking for this because it's not important. It's not vital for us to use these products to teach someone American history, to teach them how to add 2 plus 2. You don't need these political ideas. I've said it to my local school board, which I've done video on, and I say it around the country. This is not part of raising someone, to teach someone. This is not part of a product. It shouldn't be. It's aggravating. By the way, user band, you're correct. This is one of the best products you could possibly have for stripping paint, for removing rust, and corroding objects. It's absolutely true. Scientifically proven. And like I said, I'm using it right now because I didn't have anything else. It's not my choice. Okay. So user doesn't like Bill Maher either, and that he is a ideologue, not out for justice. Mike Bowie mentions that racism is just another form of censorship. You are correct, Mike. I agree with you. User says that's why progressives use the American conservatives or fascists. It's a means of silencing people. Jason, hey, there you are, Jay. Good to see you. I know D-Live is not up. I know. It's money. It's all about money. Can't afford it. You have to pay for it. Jason mentions the problem is affirmative action is socially acceptable. That is why there is a requirement now to have every color of the rainbow on the court that is not based on qualifications. And user says, I don't need my microwave connected to the internet that tells me its political leanings. Yeah, your toaster shouldn't tell you, hey, I'm political. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Libertarian. You shouldn't have to even question that. Should not be part of the process. Hang on a second. So I just wanted to let Mike know I agree with him. So this is very upsetting to me. And as you can see, we've done several videos on Katanji Brown Jackson. We do not support Katanji Brown Jackson as being a Supreme Court justice. Let me type that out. Now let me give you the bad news. She is going to be the next Supreme Court justice. That's the truth. There will be 51 votes for Katanji Brown Jackson. It will be divided strictly down party line, as far as I can tell. There will be 51 votes for her, exactly 51 votes, because the Senate will be tied and Kamala Harris has the breakthrough vote. She has the 51st vote in the United States Senate, and she will make the deciding vote. And Katanji Brown Jackson will be part of the Supreme Court. Now you should ask, and people may ask me, well, Mike, why do you oppose Katanji Brown Jackson? Because I think that's an important question. Why would I not support that woman? Because she is soft on crime. She views crime and punishment through the lens of racism. That she believes because of someone's skin tone, that somehow changes the crime that they committed. That if you have the right skin tone, if you have a good enough of a tan, a permanent tan, like my permanent tan, that you are forgiven and excused for certain action, which I think is ridiculous. Murder is murder, carjacking is carjacking, child pornography is child pornography. And regardless of the color of your skin, if you have committed these crimes, you need to be punished, and everyone should be punished on the same scale. Now, if you want to say, well, Mike, there's a different scale for different colors, show me the proof. If that's the case, Let's change that so that everyone's on the same scale. But don't tell me that there should be a scale based on someone's skin color and someone else's skin color. And then there's another criteria to go by. Well, this is their gender. This is their proposed gender. I think Ted Cruz called it out perfectly when he's like, well, what if I'm an Asian man today? What if today I want to be Asian? Oh, I'll pose it here. What if I wanted to be, if I decided to say I'm Samoan, maybe I'm like Senator Elizabeth Warren. I'm an American Indian. Because that's what Elizabeth Warren said for decades and took advantage of it and made money off of it and took away that right and privilege from someone else. Why can't I be an American Indian and get all of the benefits of being an American Indian because I say so right now? I know there's American Indians out there who are going to say, well, that's just unfair. That's bias. It's not right. You're abusing the system. And I would tell you, yes, that is absolutely correct. That is true. That would be an abuse of the system. You cannot, just because you want to, say, I'm an American Indian. Can't do it. No, that's wrong. Why are we allowing a Supreme Court justice, or allowing a woman to, or this woman to become a Supreme Court justice who says, oh no, that's okay? Because if she cannot define what is a woman, she cannot define what is an American Indian, she cannot define the people who are protected under the Constitution. If you can't understand and define a basic term like woman, an adult human female, period. If you can't define that, you can't define the Constitution, nor can you apply the Constitution. Therefore, you don't deserve to be a Supreme Court judge, period. Gone. Bye. That's my answer. Now, I am happy to hear from all the supporters of KBJ who want to tell me that I am racist because I believe you need to be able to define woman. I think you need to be able to define American. I think you need to be able to define the words that you are going to make judgments on. That I am somehow a racist because I don't want to accept KBJ because she's not unqualified. She has the wrong qualifications. And that's the difference. It's not that she's unqualified. She has the wrong qualifications. She is an activist judge. An activist. She wants to promote her ideology and she wants to impose it on you in every way that she can. She goes to college. She's teaching classes as of 2015, according to documents submitted to the United States Senate of her speech, which I covered 2 days ago, and I have in detail where I have gone through the exact words she has used. She is teaching other lawyers, she is teaching other judges that you need to base sentencing on someone's skin color. That is a bias of the judicial system. It is racially motivated, which makes her a racist, which also means shows her support, as she has said, of critical race theory, which divides America and is the least productive thing we could do. She does not deserve to be in the Supreme Court. I am happy to hear every single argument that someone wants to make to tell me I am wrong. Yes, she went to college. Yes, she was a lawyer. Yes, she's been on the district court for 9 months and had 3 cases overturned because of her activism. Yes, her judicial history matters. I'm looking at her record and it is suspect. Her answers are suspect, and she does not, based on her history and her answers, does not deserve the Supreme Court. And America will be worse off because she will be the next Supreme Court justice. Anyone want to tell me why I'm wrong? Anyone. As long as you don't tell me that I'm wrong. I know when you want to come out and say, well, Mike, you got it wrong. First of all, you better be a biologist. But assuming that none of us are biologists, which we don't need, because I have a mom, and you have a mom, and everyone has a mom. Even Katanji Brown Jackson, responding to Ted Cruz, came out and said, I know I'm a woman because I have a mom. That was her statement. She knows she's a woman because she has a mom. Then are you defining a woman? Because if you're not, how do you know? And how can you make any decision as a judge? But let's go beyond that. That woman, Katanji Brown Jackson, I have so many issues with her, not because she's uneducated. She's educated. It's not because she's not capable. She is capable. It is what she is doing as the application of that education. It is how she is using those capabilities. It is the importance she has weighted, the priorities she has put forth, both as her judicial doctrine and her core beliefs. And if someone cannot understand that, and all they can see is she's black and a woman, you are ignorant and you are helping to destroy America. If that is the only answer you can give me, is that she is black and a woman, then you have failed. And I say that directly to Councilwoman Angela Riley, as well as several members of Congress and much of the news media, because they have failed the American public because their focus is she's black, she's a woman, she's under 55, and she's an activist judge. That is ageist, racist, sexist, probably several other ists and isms. I don't know. I'm not a progressive, so I don't know the full list of the ists and isms that are there, but I will make that argument, and I can back it up. And if anyone wants to tell me I am wrong, let's go through it. Let's do this. Because the news media won't. They will not have that conversation with you. They're now trying to tell you it is difficult. It's correct. Scientists are the only ones who can define your gender, and it's even hard for them. No, it's not. Natural science has proven that there are males and females. Look, there's a lion and a lioness. There are cheetahs. There are, orangutans. There's elephants. Go through the animal kingdom. This ain't that hard to figure out. Mind you, I am not telling anyone that they cannot live their life. I am not telling anyone that I'm going to pick who they can love. Other than minor children, that's a no. NAMBLA, go to hell. So I'll be very clear there. NAMBLA can go to hell. You don't get to children? No, off limits, period. But if you are a grown adult and you love X, Y, Z, I don't care. Are you harming anyone else? No. Love whatever and whoever you want. If you want to be a toaster and you want to make love with bread, I don't care, in your private home, whatever. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. It's not my decision. With grown adults who can consent. But it is entirely different to see what we are seeing right now. I don't know. Somebody call in. Tell me what you think. Somebody, anybody, I don't care. You agree, you disagree, I don't care. Call in 607-242-1582. Someone else tell me what they think. Am I a racist? Am I out of my mind? I don't. If you think I'm a racist, tell me I'm a racist. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead, tell me. I want to hear this. Oh, and I just got a message from Hal. Hal Stewart, who was just, if you notice, he was just on the comments, and he's saying that Twitter is blocking us. That Twitter is blocking this stream. That Twitter has censored us. I wonder why. Hey, Agent Black, yeah, you missed a little bit. I'm talking about Katanji Brown Jackson, who is going to be put onto the Supreme Court in 51 votes to 50, with Kamala Harris making the 51st vote, and that she is going to destroy the Supreme Court because of her judicial activism and her desire to categorize people based on the color of their skin and their sexual preferences rather than the Constitution. That's what you missed. And I have asked that anyone call in and tell me whether they agree or disagree with what I have just said. Anyone. I don't care who. Don't care if they agree with me or disagree with me. Tell me. Call in 607-242-1582. Just tell us your first name and tell Mike, you're wrong or I'm right. You want to call me a racist? This is the opportunity for the entire progressive left, progressive leaders of tomorrow, Citizen Action, BLM. This is your chance. Come on, call in and I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead. Call in and tell me I am a racist and tell me why. You want to call me a sexist? Okay, call in and tell me I am a sexist and explain why my defined and clear objection to Katanji Brown Jackson is sexist or racist. Make your argument. Prove me wrong. I'm not joking. User has been banned says he's sorry if he doesn't think that this is a joke. I'm being serious. I may try and inject some humor into this because it's bleak and dark. Hello, and thank you for calling into No Soundbites Allowed. This is your host, Michael Voss. May I ask your first name?
Hey, Mike, it's Jason.
Hey, Jason. Go ahead. What's going on?
I was trying to, to have somebody call in. I figured I'd give it a little time. Else
never wait. Everyone's always waiting for someone else to be first. Always just go ahead and do it. Go ahead.
I clog up the opinion here. But anyway, the whole situation with this Supreme Court pick and the way that it's played out, and a lot of the focus too, it's frustrating, to me, because the main thing is that we've got a Supreme Court nominee right now who now will define the English language in whichever way she feels fit to actually win her argument. So words have absolutely no meaning until they are actually put in front of her, in front of the court, and then she's able to define them. Based upon that definition that she defines right on the spot, she will then make her decision on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it's insanity. There is no, I don't know how you can argue with somebody or anybody, when you're not arguing about the same thing. And when it comes to the gender situation and sex, there's just no art. I mean, there's nothing to say. And the hardest thing is that here, if you are getting banned right now from Twitter, I mean, it's probably because this defined a man as a man or a woman as a woman, and and then made no exceptions for anything that anybody thinks or feels at any other time, and by saying that, well, that's an automatic ban, because according to the person who defined what things are, decided that whatever you said the definition is hate speech. So you're no longer allowed to have that opinion. So, and and that's the problem though, is that now we're going to have somebody in the Supreme Court with that same sort of ruling. They're going to be ruling like the way that Twitter does, and completely, redefining words in ways, to win arguments. And I don't know how, I don't know how people, like I said, could carry a conversation, with people, on an opposite, side of something when, like I said, the words that you're using to define something don't even matter. I mean, even when you're saying too, is just like, well, you don't care what a person, if a person wants to be trans or this or that, then again, or wants to be a woman or wants to be a male. I don't even know. That's the problem. Is what the heck are those things? Nobody's defining them. There's no concrete, room for any sort of discussion or an argument because of it.
Well, it seems there is a argument that's ongoing right now because they're saying, okay. Oh, sorry, I was also checking if people could hear you clearly. But it seems there is an argument because they're saying, no, these are things they're going to decide for you and that they are going to impose their will on you and punish you. And that's just scary to me.
Yeah, it is. And, and I think too about some of the, conversations that they had, about her and her basis and the way that she sees things through the scope of critical race theory. And I wasn't sure exactly what sort of, if she is basing, people, upon race, and then like the whole situation with the pedophiles and just, being, lighter sentences for some, arbitrary reason. The question did she account? Was the argument that she was accounting for race during those periods of time and saying that the people who were, victimizing as pedophiles happen to be, victims themselves, and that's why she decided not to do that? I mean, it wasn't very clear, from what I understood or I heard.
Well, I can tell you that, and I want to be clear that I've seen a couple of I have not seen the criminal in the most quoted case during the Senate hearings. But the image that I've seen from a couple of sources, news media sources, shows that the criminal was a black male. Regardless of that, when I hear that a judge is apologizing not to the victim, but to the criminal for sentencing that criminal, again, I think that invalidates them as a judge and as a Supreme Court justice, especially a Supreme Court justice, because that is a miscarriage of justice, at least to me. I cannot see how it is not. I understand there may be extenuating circumstances, which does not appear to be so in these cases, but I think that goes beyond the pale. That is too much. It is insane and incendiary for me. And people can tell me that they think I'm racist for it. I don't care.
Well, you can't have an opinion on anything without being racist, even if you're whatever color or contradictory to whatever. So, and the question is too, what the hell is a racist? I mean, do they have a definition for that anymore? Because they continue to actually change that, day to day, depending on whoever's, got their finger on, Wikipedia there. So, hey, what's what. But the crazy thing is, though, is it's just the application. Just think about the pedophile situation, though. From what you said, there was a depiction of a black man. And only in this case, it would almost be like, okay, if you're going to actually take the application the way that they're teaching, that, on a, collegiate level, that, of the structure, where, or based upon white privilege, then, you have an individual who there is a pedophile who's black and committed that crime, but yet is a victim of what we call being oppressed by white privilege, and because they're actually being prosecuted in a white privilege, system, then, she, within her means, decided that she was going to rule in a way, that was less harm or less, a lighter sentence due to that circumstance. So, you know, there's, it's completely racist, and unfortunately too, I don't know. I mean, I think that other people would argue and say, well, maybe that reasoning right there, they say, well, that's the way you should judge things. Maybe that's what we need. You know?
I don't think so, because when it comes down to it, so how do you define an American citizen so that they have the right to vote? They have the right to own and bear arms. How do you decide who has the right 14th Amendment, right to privacy, right to free speech? These things are all inherently involved in the decision that she is making.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too. You just said vote. I mean, hey, you could be illegal and vote in New York State. So, I mean, what the hell does that mean
Yeah.
anymore?
What's the definition of citizen at this point?
Yeah.
And by the way, for people who are not familiar with this, and I want to make sure that because we provide sources of the things we're talking about here, I have, where is it? Give me 2 seconds. Where is the case? There it is.
The New York City.
No. I'm going to show you something. So when you look, this is a bill, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. HR 2287, currently in Congress right now. And this is the bill itself. You notice what the first thing they do in the bills? They define the terms, definitions. They tell you what everything means, what they're supposed to mean. If you cannot define woman, if you cannot define citizen, if you cannot define, well, woman is the most basic, man and woman. If you can't define that, then we have a problem. It's not the same thing as saying, I have a different definition. See, you can say, this is my definition. I can say, okay, I agree with it. I disagree with it. I understand it, whatever. That's one thing. It's another thing when you tell me that it's impossible to define this. That's crap. Whether it's legal or scientific or just common knowledge, there are definitions. And that should, and there's no reason to say, I can't define. That's crap. And what you're saying is that you're at the best case, what I hear KBJ saying is that Judge Jackson is saying that her definition is based on political preferences of fad. It changes. It is an evolving definition based on politics. And in the worst case, she's completely prejudiced. And that is a disqualifier for the Supreme Court, in my opinion.
Well, that's interesting, because the thing is that we would have to say that what's defining our English language is the legislative branch of our government, because they're the ones who wrote the laws, they passed the laws, and they're the ones who are defining what things are so you can enforce those laws. And basically, based upon those definitions, all the judge needs to do is actually read definitions and say whether or not it actually follows those guidelines. But I guess what she wants to do, she wants to, say that, well, no, the people who actually wrote the laws are wrong because, well, that's the thing is that she's going based upon the Constitution. If the Constitution doesn't define what a woman is, then she can define what it is and say that the legislator who created those laws didn't define, woman the way that the founders intended to be written. So, legal play, I tell you, it's just crazy.
I think it's beyond the pall.
Well, look that kind of goes to the argument though too of marriage. When that came down the pipe, because the definition of marriage was based upon between a man and a woman. Again, at that time though, they actually defined what a man and a woman is. Now, that would be a completely different argument. But they actually redefined marriage to actually, push down different court cases that came upon that, or different laws that that happened.
All of those cases have to come back to the courts, because if we can't define woman, then how do you define marriage is no longer between man and woman. It's no longer between two men or two women. How are we defining marriage?
With people,
I mean,
among people that are adults, I suppose. I don't know.
and then we have to go into what's an adult. I mean,
Yeah,
do you
well,
see the
trust me.
rabbit hole? The rabbit hole just gets deeper and
Well,
deeper.
And that's the thing too, is everybody thinks that's a joke with the, what an adult is, but I mean, that is, pretty much the final frontier for the left at this point is to basically the justification of pedophilia. And they've, in certain aspects that you've seen certain, radicals, move down that path. They have some who've gotten pushed back and others you're kind of like, are anybody going to argue against that? But, some just sit on the sideline. You're just like, it's, but that's the thing is just that you continue to redefine things to, I don't know, it turns into the basis is I think that there's just too many people out there who really have this concept of thinking that you do you and I do me and everybody will be happy, and then we don't need an objective truth to be like that. You can define the world you want and I can define the world I want. We can all live in harmony, but the bottom line, it doesn't work like that. Without actually some concrete freaking rules, guidelines, some definitions of words, we cannot survive, as a human race.
I agree. I agree. Hang on. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, for all those people who, especially the celebrities, the entertainers out there, Trevor Noah, The View, Bill Maher, I really hate when they're talking about this because, especially since the case of the child pornography has come up, and they're like, "Well, that's out of bounds. You can't talk about that. That's just being sexist and racist. You're just picking on her." You know what? For all those Hollywood types, Harvey Weinstein, you protected him, you empowered him, you made him rich, you allowed him. In the case of Oprah, they threw young, innocent women at him. They are the last people in the universe I want to hear having any opinion about this. And they should all shut the hell up because they are complicit. And they have empowered these kinds of people, these child pornographers. They have helped create the problem and expand the problem. They're the last ones in the universe to speak about it. But I think there are issues with her in her philosophy. There are issues in the way she has conducted herself. There is issues about the way her belief system, which you may or may not discount. She should not be a Supreme Court justice, and she will be. Let me ask you, Jason, how do you feel knowing that Democrats, because of the 2022 election, because of progressive politics, they are going to vote straight down the line for her, that she's going to get 51 votes, and this is now our next Supreme Court justice? How does that make you feel about America?
You know what? It's interesting because the thing is that, there's going to be a leftist on the court. And quite frankly, having the most radical one there to me was actually the best, because one of the things that, I think that I can't remember who always used to say this, but when you have something that is such a broad contrast to what your beliefs are and you're arguing those two sides, it's very obvious to see, which, way is the best way, And when, like I said, you've got somebody in an alternate universe, with an alternate reality, with an alternate language, with the alternate, just there is no, woman, there is no man, there is no woman, there is no, and there is even race though. Maybe there is race, but it only applies to people who actually think a certain way, and that's what her perspective is. And so when arguments come up in court, you're going to hear that. And then you're also going to hear, the opposite side of it. Now, the other question is that will conservatives, voice such a contrasting opinion, basically to show, where her stance is? I hope so. And that will be a good thing, I mean, now I would be obviously, you know, fearful if obviously, that was going to be, a sway on the entire Supreme Court. But having her there in that position and having those views, I think that could actually be a good thing because that I think you need the AOC perspective on the Supreme Court. So when that voice is spoken, then basically that is what the conservatives on the Supreme Court will be able to speak against directly, and that will give more clarity, especially among Americans, just so we can actually debate things far more effectively.
Well, you have a very positive outlook overall, saying that this could result in something positive.
Yeah.
My problem is that once she's on for 20 years minimum, objectively, she's going to have 20 years of destroying the United States and our justice, our Constitution. I don't see it positive because even if every election from going forward is only conservatives every single time, she's on the Supreme Court reinterpreting our Constitution to benefit a political ideology that at its core, because critical race theory, intersectionality, gender identity politics, at their core, they are adverse to our Constitution. They support and drive us towards socialism and communism. It is literally an infection in America eating away at our country. And every day that she would be on the Supreme Court, that infection grows.
Yeah. I mean, I think though is that, like I was saying before, I think that there's things that are actually far more threatening than her being around forever. And I think, well, due to the simple fact that, if Democrats ever did get in power, to a point where they just started adding justices left and right, I mean, that would be, far more detrimental than just even her being on there, But like I said, I think it's important though, because the thing is that for too long, I think that especially conservatives have really not been able to focus on exactly, what the hell their principles are and why they believe what they believe, and then having such a, like I said, such a radical, group of people who are just so, obsessed with power, wanting to basically take everything away. People now are able to identify what that is. And because they're able to identify, they're able to, fight back and push against it. Before it was just like, the left would always kind of play this game where it's just like, oh, we love you. We're just trying to do what's best for you. We're kind. And they never, I mean, to the degree of just the overall hatred and, disrespect, saying, no, you've got to do this. You've got to behave this way. You have to, vote this way. You can't be black and do that, I mean, that wasn't there, 5 years ago. That's here now. And the thing is like I said, as long as they're bringing that to the forefront, then that is what can be argued. And that's what this Supreme, Court justice represents, And so when she basically has her dissent, when she's writing a dissent, we'll be able to read that and go, geez, is this really the direction that we want our country to head down? And then, from there, conservatives will be able to point to those arguments and say, look, you know what, we want legislation that defines things very specifically so the Supreme Court can't basically make their own definitions.
But you can't prevent them from doing that. You can be as specific as you want to be. How do you get more specific than man, woman?
Chromosomes. XX, XY, that's the end of the line. And then to say anything other than that, unfortunately, is a disability. That's it. That's how you define it.
But that is a scary loophole that once we start going down that, we're going to...
What's so scary? What's so scary? I mean, it's scary that
the applications.
It is scary.
Well, think of the applications that now we're going to be defining people by their genetics. And that means, one, government has to start getting everyone's genetics because otherwise you can't be defined. Yeah, and what else do we find in that genetic code that we can use to now say, well, you have a whatever percentage chance of having children with Down syndrome or having a recessive gene that could lead towards you're more susceptible to a pandemic, blah, blah. It's a rabbit hole. It goes, once you start going down that, now you introduce opportunities to abuse people
Well,
and lose privacy as well at the same time.
I mean, if a person really wants to get that extreme, but I mean, we already are defining, with women's sports, with the title was it 7 or whatever, for the
Nine,
man and the
Title
women's,
Nine, Title
huh?
Nine. It's Title
Title
Nine.
IX, yeah, wrong title. Anyway, and that's already there. That already defined it. That already gave woman and man. The problem is there's no concrete definition to go by. That's why there's such freaking insanity right now. Like without a concrete definition, then basically it's a complete and total free for all. And yes, I understand what you're saying about genetics and having people being analyzed and sorted out from that. I mean that's obviously always a scary thing to have happen. But then another thing is that if we continue down the path we currently are, what's eventually going to happen, they will eliminate the only direction that this is happening with men and women's sports. There will be no men and women's sports. Instead, what they'll probably start to do is they'll actually probably start, considering everybody wants to make everything equal, is a certain amount of testosterone that you're allowed to have within your body, and I don't know how they're going to, basically manage that, to cut that back. Either they're going to start injecting people, with anabolic steroids to bring them up, which I would doubt that would happen, and the only other direction to go is basically, have to castrate people. And as hyperbolic and crazy as it sounds, come on, let's think of the direction of equity, and what that is defined at, and that is exactly the direction it would lead to in the future. But no, I think that a very simple definition, like I said, the XX, the XY, and then leave it at that, and like I said, there are and anybody else who falls outside that realm, yes, that that is a disability, and then you'll look at it as that. So.
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying, but you understand what I'm saying about the problem with it.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to give the government more power, to try to solve problems that it created. But the problem is that without a concrete definition, then basically they can kind of just, finagle and do whatever the hell they want when they want. And then we just constantly, live a life where, we got a Supreme Court justice is sitting there going, well, you know what? I don't know what a woman is because I'm not a biologist, and then just, I mean, you can't do that. We can't have a world where a Supreme Court justice is be able to say that because we don't define things in concrete ways. And I know the fact is too is that, and the thing is too is all people want some sort of concrete reality. Well, most people want to be in a concrete reality of a world. And the people who don't are honestly the ones who want to escape the entire time, and they're the ones who are on drugs and other things to try to eliminate that. Unfortunately, we almost seem like we're heading into a country or a world that is moving that direction, and I don't know.
Well, no, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm also starting to lose the connection. I don't know, not my phone. So let me, before I lose you completely, because it seems like the connection is going bad.
Okay.
Let me let other people jump in here, but you've brought some very interesting points, and I do understand what you're saying, and you understand what I'm saying. So I think it's an interesting discussion. Let's see what other people think about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I'll see you. Bye.
Right. Okay. So I think we were starting to lose Jason for a moment there. If anyone's having a problem with the audio quality on my side, for me, let me know. I was hearing him okay up until the last 30 seconds. So just let me know. Okay, his voice did switch channels. Okay, I thought so. So, but I think it's a very interesting question. And we have to really look at this because the consequences are going to be huge. It's really weird. And I'm really, really concerned about this. And I'm very angry about this. And I'm angry about the fact that Katanji Brown Jackson is going to be Supreme Court Justice, perhaps more than anything else, because people are justifying it not based on her qualifications, not based on her judicial philosophy. They're justifying it because they're saying black and woman, and if you don't agree with that, well, then you're a sexist and a racist. And that is the most arbitrary and insulting way of looking at her as well as anyone else. You are demeaning her and her capabilities and what she has done in her life, whether I agree with it or not, has nothing to do with it. You are diminishing her to nothing more than a series of check boxes by saying, but if you don't agree, you're racist and sexist. You have diminished her. You have taken away everything she has achieved. And Biden did that when he picked her because she was black and a woman and her age and her philosophy or her activism and not her actual qualifications. And I think that's the problem. And to say that, well, Republicans didn't even pay attention. Come on, let's get real. No one asked her whether or not she was underage drinking when she was a teenager. No one asked her about who she was having sex with. No one was asking her about her religion and how often, whether or not her religion and her religious beliefs interfere with her being able to do her job. Democrats did do that to Supreme Court justices in the past, and they did use that as a reason to persecute some of the Supreme Court justices. All Republicans have done is said, here's your record. What is going on? Here are the issues that affect America. What's going on? And the fact that Democrats recognize the majority of America does not agree and they're looking for a way out is insulting to her and everyone else. They have no argument. That's why they're reaching for the lowest bar possible. And that is sad. And you may disagree with me on that. That's fine. Okay. So I know there's a bunch of comments here. I know people are saying that they want to talk about how Biden is impacting the world. And we do go from local to national. We cover everything. So I'm going to go to that in 1 second. I just want to catch up on some of the comments here. And Dow was mentioning that in trying to reach out to Democrats and Republicans about Afghanistan and world politics, only the Republicans are responding. Democrats, elected officials, will not respond, which has been my experience as well. And that's sad. And that goes into what we're seeing with everything else we're talking about here. Because Democrats won't respond to the issue. They won't respond to why pedophiles are being treated with such leniency, why they are being apologized to, why there is such a discrepancy to benefit those criminals rather than the victims. It's because, and the answer is politics. They want to get reelected. So they don't want to have to address an issue that they know they'll lose on. Now, I'm willing to keep going on this, but I also want to address something else. I want to bring this up for you guys. You can tell me what you think about it. I want you to hear something, because trust me, I'm not done with KBJ. That's for sure. And there's going to be more of this coming up as she gets confirmed, but we'll get back to her. This is something we've heard the comments by Joe Biden. Okay, we heard Joe Biden when he was speaking. Matter of fact, I'm going to play what Joe Biden said, and then we're going to talk about how the world is reacting because you are now less safe. Not just that the military, American military, is demoralized because of what he did in feeding himself and having fun at the expense of our soldiers. No, far worse. You are going to be in danger, and I'm going to explain it. So listen to this.
He also seemed to suggest it was time for the Russians to... Speaking from Warsaw's royal castle, President Biden called the Ukraine conflict the task of our time, part of a larger fight for freedom.
There's simply no justification or provocation for Russia's choice of war. It's an example of one of the oldest human impulses, using brute force and disinformation to satisfy a craving for absolute power and control.
He also seemed to suggest it was time for the Russians to force their president, Vladimir Putin, out.
For God's sake, This man cannot remain in power.
Shortly after the speech, a White House official sought to walk that back, saying the president's point was that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or the region. He was not discussing Putin's power in Russia or regime change.
Okay, stop right there. Yes, he was. Yes, that is what he said. That is exactly what Joe Biden said. He wanted regime change. And just like I called out Lindsey Graham for being stupid and saying that he wants to see assassinations of world leaders, which would lead us into a World War I scenario that created the World War, this increases the net danger of the world. This destabilizes the world. He's asking for regime change. He just said that. He said it to the world. He knew what he was saying. And why is this a problem? How is this going to cause more problems? Let's think about it. As Representative Dara Issa has presented, Biden says he will use the U.S. will use chemical weapons. White House corrects him. Biden says the 82nd Airborne is on its way to the Ukraine. Biden is corrected again. Biden calls for regime change in Russia, corrected a third time. Who's correcting Biden? The White House is correcting the president. How can the White House that works for Joe Biden correct Joe Biden? They work for him, not the other way around. He is leading. He is making the statement. He is making the statement of America. Now, when you listen to NPR, notice the way that they are presenting this. Biden says, Putin, for God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. They are minimizing the statement. They are supporting Joe Biden as he is making this statement, even though they admit that immediately the White House jumped up and said, oh my God, we've got to fix this because this is warmongering. This is trying to encourage people to go to war against Russia, not just the Ukraine, the world. And that creates a problem. But NPR wants to make it look like, well, he's being strong. That's politics. See, when we look at NBC, Ukraine-Russia War Live Update, Secretary Blinken, other officials walk back the statements from here. So they recognize this is a problem. He has gone too far, that they have to try and handle this because the fallout from the comments, which prompted a swift response from the Kremlin, overshadowed Biden's efforts to frame Russia's war in the United Kingdom, where is it? In Ukraine, as a battle of generations and to rally the world's support. Here's the problem about rallying the world's support. Again, the United Kingdom decided, according to The Guardian, they ran away from Biden. The Guardian has distanced themselves, the United Kingdom has distanced itself from the United States. That's not the only problem. Where is it? Here it is. Macron distanced himself from the Ukraine, from the United States. Here it is. I'll give you a better example of it. Here it is. From Politico, Macron warns against escalation after Biden's criticism of Putin. He said, and I am quoting him, if we want to do that, we can't escalate either in words or actions. That is to reduce the situation, to end the war that is going on between Ukraine and Russia. This has been provocative. And experts, as quoted here, by the Business Insider, experts say Biden's comments that Putin must go could give Russia president the freedom to show no restraint. Biden, in his ignorance, in his statement from and as the United States, has led Russia to be all bars, no holds barred. And I quote, this is from Richard Haas, a veteran diplomat and president of the Council of Foreign Relations. He said, quote, it discourages Putin from any compromise, essentially. If you've got everything to lose, it frees him up. Why should he show any restraint? And it confirms Putin's worst fear, which was that it was the United States seeks his ouster and systemic change. Haas told Politico that while the White House immediately walked back those comments, the fact that Biden made the comments could be read as Biden's genuine belief as opposed to scripted words. That the White House, that elements of the White House believe this, that elements of the United States government is trying to seek regime change, which means there's no reason for Putin to stop. Now, I want to be very clear. Earlier in the program, I said, and I have said for many months, Putin doesn't need to take over the Ukraine. I have alleged and I have stated that my belief is Putin never intended to take over the entire Ukraine. He was going to take as much land and as much territory as he possibly could, guaranteeing that he had the eastern portion of the Ukraine and the southern portion so that he had access to the Black Sea and therefore to the Mediterranean, that he was able to get wheat and fertilizer and uranium. And that would establish and help to stabilize the Russia going forward. I said that, and I stand by that. But when we have Joe Biden putting American troops on the border, taking American custom border patrol and putting them on the border of Poland, that we're putting American troops in Romania and the surrounding region. And then you have Biden going to Poland and saying that he wants regime change. Well, then you have to consider the fact that Putin is going to say, screw it, why don't I take all of it? Because these guys are coming for me. He escalates the problem. When we have Israel and France and Germany stepping in to try and clean up the problem that Biden is making and trying to negotiate, they can't get any headway because Putin's going to turn around and say, yeah, that's not what Joe said, and Joe has a bigger army. Do we see the problem here? And these are our allies who are running away. France and England, the United Kingdom, they're running away. They are afraid that this one man is, in his brain farts, is trying to drive the world to a war. And I understand why Biden said it. The reason why he said that is because he needs to look strong so that he can get Democrats to come out and vote in the 2022 midterm election. And he needs to look strong to make up for his failure in Afghanistan and the fact that he's already admitted he's going to abandon Americans in the Ukraine because he's a weak leader with no success, not one. We can go through his entire record to date from 2021 all the way through to today. He has had no success. He needs to look strong so that Democrats will think that there might be a reason to actually show up on November of 2022. And he is driving the world into a less stable position at every turn. I've shown you North Korea so far. I've talked about Iran so far. And now we're seeing what's going on here. And our allies are running from us as they try to fix his problem. Is there anyone else in the news media that's taking even 5 minutes to explain this and let people know how bad this problem is and what the consequences are? Let me go back to some of the comments. So are they going to, in the future, will Democrats use Alzheimer's as an excuse to walk back the many things that Joe Biden has done and to use the 25th Amendment? Maybe. I think once the 2022 midterm elections are done, Biden is going to come out and he's going to be forced out by the 25th Amendment. I've said that for a long time now, and I stand by it. He's not going to be around in January of 2023. Sadly, that means Kamala Harris will be, and that makes it worse. And Dow makes the point that they, of course, if he is, if they do claim he's got Alzheimer's, well, then he's protected from all criticism because, well, he's got a disability, which is ridiculous when it comes to politics. So let me go on to some of the other comments. We're not supposed, Dow mentions we're not supposed to question these things. And we're not, but I am. And that's why this channel gets in so much trouble. Macron user has mentioned that France is best known probably for their white flag policies and their failures in geopolitics, especially in wars, since beyond World War II. And I agree with you. But at the same time, it's important to know that Macron has stepped up, France, Israel have stepped up, and they have all been trying to negotiate because, and the United Kingdom, because the failure of Blinken in the face of the statements coming from Biden. The world is, everyone else is trying to fix this problem because Joe Biden keeps talking and making it worse. And that doesn't mean, that means that we can't trust our allies. Our allies do not trust the United States because every time they do something, Biden makes their position worse. We're screwing with our allies. Forget our enemies. Our enemies are being empowered and encouraged. Our allies are being stepped on. That's a problem. And Dow correctly mentions that given America's history of regime change in the past, because America is no angel, I give you that, that's a legitimate question. That is a legitimate issue for Putin and any government. If Biden had said that about any government, they'd look at America's history as well as many other countries. But America's been very successful at creating regime change, especially since World War II. Yeah, I take it seriously too. It's a serious thing. Gee. And does that make him less likely to continue to fight? No, I think it makes it more likely to fight. Dow mentions that even if Putin doesn't believe the mutterings of a weak, doddering idiot, optically, it's still a public declaration that can be utilized to justify any conflict that he wants to make, which is true. Let's see. I'm just looking through some of the comments here to catch back up to everyone. Mike Bowie mentions maybe the American people can distance themselves from Biden somehow. It's called the 25th Amendment. Sadly, that gives us Kamala Harris, which is terrifying. Agent Black out of the UK, across the pond, he says, if the West addresses Russians' concerns, there will be peace. Problem is that the Western elites are directly involved in war crimes as proven by emails on laptop. There are a lot of problems. And I have a lot of issues with this, but I do not think I've said it before. Don't let Kamala speak on international policy. She screws it up. Shut Joe Biden up. That man should not say a single word that isn't already written for him, and usually he doesn't. But we really can't let this man just speak and say whatever the hell he wants. In part because he is weak. No one trusts him. No one believes him. He is a failure. And it is the worst thing. Has anyone ever been in a fight? And I think almost everyone, we all have at some point in our lives. We've been in a fight. Okay. Now think about it. Even if you've seen a fight, not boxing, I mean real world fighting. And you see that one guy with a big mouth who's just talking crap. And he's trying to be tough. And he's talking crap because he thinks he's tough. He thinks he's going to scare away the people who are tough that he's trying to get into a fight with, or rather, trying to stop them from fighting. He thinks he's going to scare them out of being in a fight and that he's going to look good because he talked really tough. Except the truly tough guys will beat the crap out of him because they don't care about tough talk. And they don't believe that that guy with the big mouth can actually back up what he's saying. They think that he's just shouting to try and distract them, to scare them off. It's one of the reasons that, like if you're in the woods, they say, oh, well, stand up and make a lot of noise, try and scare away the bear because you're bigger, or some wild animal like a wolf or something, to scare it away because you're big and you're going to scare it off. Except if you're really up against something tough, it doesn't work. You can jump up and down and scream at a bear, and if the bear decides to stand up, it's taller and bigger than you. It's not going to back down, and you're going to be dead. And yes, I do realize the symbolism of Russia being a bear in my analogy. I do realize. So, I mean, perhaps. Hang on a second. Okay. Just checking some of the comments from Twitter, which are coming in separate from the show. Don't know why. But I think these are important things. I think this isn't, it scares me. Because it seems like, and I hope to be wrong, I would like to be wrong, but you tell me. It seems like Joe Biden is trying to be the big mouth, tough guy image, and he's trying to make it seem like he can back Putin into a corner, and all he's doing is aggravating Putin and making the situation worse. And he's doing this, he's playing this tough guy role so that he can win an election. That's what I keep coming back to. Every single thing that we have seen has been encouraging further action, and then Biden trying to cover it up and look tough. He's making a mistake, and then he tries to make himself look better by covering up the mistake with another mistake that brings us even deeper. This is not negotiations. The time for tough talk was long before January. You had all of December to talk tough. And I've said it before. If we had said with any credibility to Putin and said, hey, we're going to slam your nation with sanctions on your oil production, that we're not going to let you sell oil around the world, if you start with that, that may have given him a pause. Not saying that, well, depending on how long he fights, we're going to give stronger sanctions. And that, instead of advising the Ukraine to appease Russia by giving them some land, you don't say that. That doesn't disencourage Russia from trying to take the land. Again, not to say that Ukraine is the greatest nation that has ever existed. I'm not saying that. They have their problems just like every nation does. But this isn't the way you do politics. And telling Putin that he has no choice, that he is going to be deposed, that his nation is going to be destroyed, because there's only two ways to depose Putin. There's only two ways. You can do the Lindsey Graham assassination, or we invade Russia. Those are the only two ways that we could depose Putin. That's it. And I don't think there's anyone in America, nor in the world, that wants to see the United States invade Russia. If you want to see China, North Korea, and the Middle East all go absolutely losing their minds, invade Russia. If you want to see the global destabilization, total chaos and anarchy in the world, invade Russia. Again, it's not World War III. It's multiple, simultaneous regional wars. that will go and be sparked. Because if the United States can attack Russia, China can attack Taiwan, Iran can try and take over the Middle East, North Korea can go after South Korea and Japan. And they will. Especially if the United States is busy trying to fight a war against Putin by taking over Russia, which the Russian people will be unified in defending themselves against, and the United States will be divided in fighting. And our allies don't want to do it. They will be fighting against this too. Is my logic faulty? Am I not making sense? Does this not make sense? Because if it doesn't, I'm happy to hear why. But I don't see anyone saying I'm misunderstanding this or the impact or the seriousness of listening to our allies as they say, this is insane. No. Because I'm open to hearing that. I'm open. I'm praying that there is some progressive out there who's going to say, Mike, you just don't understand. Here's that one article you need to read. Here's that one interview you need to watch to see how this is helping the world. Because when I go to the world and I look at the news internationally, all I'm seeing is people freaking out and they're saying, shut up, Joe Biden, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, the American news industry is trying to say, oh, don't worry. Don't pay attention to that. It's okay. Biden's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. Don't you want to vote for that tough guy, Biden? No, because he's a maniac who doesn't know what he's talking about or thinking about the consequences. No, he's not a tough guy. If he was a tough guy, Afghanistan, the Taliban wouldn't have an army. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. I don't think it's me. I don't think I'm misunderstanding this. I don't think that I've gotten this wrong. I'm willing to hear if I am, but I don't think so. And it gets even worse because this progressive ideology, the people that he is trying to appeal to, hate American citizens. They hate you. You think I'm kidding about that? It doesn't matter that this is from Donald Trump Jr. Forget that part, okay? Look at Anna Presley. Congresswoman Anna Presley said, and this was on yesterday, 5 p.m. yesterday, Saturday. Black and Latinx. By the way, Latinx is an insult. No one who's Hispanic calls themselves Latinx. It is an insulting statement. It is a made-up word created by progressives, in particular mostly white progressives at colleges, elitists, to describe Hispanic people. Sorry, you can call me Latin, you can call me Hispanic, but if you call me Latinx, you're insulting me, and screw you. Black and Latinx commuters are disproportionately criminalized by fare evasion policies. Congress must pass my Freedom to Move Act to grant black and brown riders the freedom to navigate their community without fear. Okay, let me read this again, because I don't think people caught the key words here. Commuters are disproportionately criminalized by fare evasion policies. Okay. People are criminalized by the law. That's what that means. I have just taken the time to define what she just said. People are criminalized by the law. fare evasion policies are laws. You pay your fare. If you're going to use a subway, a train, a bus, public transit, you pay a fare. If you avoid paying the fare, if you skip the fare, you have made a crime. That is a crime. You have made a civil crime that is punishable. If you are punished for breaking the law, then Anna Presley thinks that is unfair if you have the correct checkbox of skin color. If you have the right suntan, then you should be allowed to break the law. That's what she said. Somebody, please copy this section and send it on out there. Because this is a really well done political spin on what she's saying. She's saying if you have the right skin color, you should be able to break the law. And I think I've defined it as clearly and as carefully as I can. What in the world is her bill? That is H.R. 2287. Freedom to Move Act. That is H.R. 2287. It is a holdover from the last Congress. This isn't new. They reissued this. There are exactly 4 people who are supporting this. Those 4 people are Representative Gwen Moore out of Delaware, out of Wisconsin. Jesus Garcia out of Illinois. Maxine Waters, are you surprised, out of California. And Grace Meng out of New York State. And it in fact is Queens, New York. And these 4 people, plus Anna Presley out of Massachusetts, think that Black and Hispanic people, people of color, should be allowed to break the law. And that everyone else should pay for it. This bill, H.R. 2287, is very, very simple. This bill says, and I have it highlighted here, this bill says that, and I want to be very clear, that the underserved communities will get money so that they can ride for free, that they can take a bus, they can take a train, they can have public transportation for free. And underserved community means, hey, KBJ, this is a definition for the left, progressives. This is a definition. This is what laws are built on, a definition. What is an underserved community? It means a community not served by existing bus routes or infrequent service. And notice it doesn't say or, it says and. B, a community located in an area within a census tract that is as defined as a low-income community, and it doesn't say or, there's not just a comma, it says and a community of color. So you are poor and you are white. Anna Presley is saying, screw you. You got to pay for public transportation. You don't get to have a bus in your neighborhood. You don't get to have a subway stopping in your area. You're screwed. She doesn't care. But if you're a person of color and you are poor and you are in an area that doesn't have public transportation, she wants to take everyone else's money and give it to you. She wants to take America's money from all the people who are paying the taxes, including other poor white people in a neighborhood that has no bus routes or infrequent service and is a low-income area. And if you happen to be mostly white in that area, screw you. You got to pay for Black and Hispanic people to be able to get those buses for free. And we should, at the same time, she's also saying as I have shown you, that she is also saying it's okay for Black and Hispanic people to break the law until they get the money from everyone else to pay for them to be able to use public transportation. In the Senate, there's only two people who agree with this idea. Ed Markey out of Massachusetts and Elizabeth Warren out of Massachusetts. That's it. Everyone in Boston seems to think that all the white people in Boston should pay for Black and Hispanic people to be able to take a bus. And if Black and Hispanic people break the law, it's okay. According to Massachusetts, the people in Boston, according to Anna Presley, this is what the progressives want you to do. Now, the tweet is, without fear of what? Having to pay public transportation fees for the use of said public transportation. Should only certain races have to pay? Is that what you're saying here? Yes, that is what she is saying here. Yes, that is exactly what this bill is defined on. That is the definition of the bill. That is exactly what she is saying. That is exactly what the bill says. And I am showing you H.R. 2287 so that you can see it for yourself. Because no one else in the media will tell you that. And I am called a racist because I disagree with that. Because I think that is a racist policy and it is discriminating and it is unfair. It is diabolical and it divides America. And Anna Presley and progressive leaders of tomorrow and AOC and Citizen Action and the Democratic Socialists of America, especially the Ithaca chapter that believes in violence, all say I'm a racist because I think that bill, as written, is insanely racist rhetoric. If you think I'm wrong, I'm happy to hear it. I wish that any progressive would like to tell me how that is not, by its definition and the very words of the bill, how it is not racist. Because the words, and that's why I stopped to be very clear, and it's not just poor people, it's poor Black and Hispanic people, and it's going to be paid for by everyone else. You want to see what racism is in America? Go to Democratic Socialists. They are the racists in America. Anna Presley is one of the racists in America because of what she says and because of the legislation she is putting forward. That's what I am saying. John Cordisco, I accept you as a Nubian king. By the way, folks, if you don't know, John is more white than my beard. Hey, here's an idea. I know how to resolve this. I just thank you, John. You gave me the idea. Everyone in America, every poor community in America should self-identify as a Hispanic community so that they can get the same free money that Anna Presley wants to get. Matter of fact, everyone in America should self-identify as Hispanics all at the same time so that no one has to pay for anything and we'll just all get free stuff. How's that sound? We'll all just get free stuff. Hang on a second, folks. I just want to make sure I put it in writing so that when I get quoted from one of the far left organizations, I want you to be very clear on what I'm saying in the left. When you want to try and quote me and take me out of context, here it is. The words are right there on the screen. Every poor community in America should identify as Hispanic to get free money from Representative Presley and the progressives in Congress because that's what they want to do. They want to judge people by the color of their skin. Look at that checkbox. Do you think she's going to get more votes? Let me go back to some of the comments. Mind you, I took more time to explain this than anyone in the news media is going to take. Nobody is going to look at her quote and explain how she twisted the English language, did the whole poly-speak action to get across an idea of committing a crime. She's advocating for criminal action, and her law is racist as hell. And nobody, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, they will not, the Atlantic, the Intercept, they are not going to take a moment to ever explain to you how Anna Presley is using you and emotionally manipulating you to create more racism in America. Everyone should denounce what she has done. Everyone. Let me get through the comments here. So, they want, user said that, user has been banned, says, they want to attack rural living and suburban neighborhoods so everyone packs into cities, kind of an Agenda 2130. With bike lanes that no one uses. Dow says the legislation is right up there with not being a crime to invade a home, seize property, or space by private individuals. Actually, there is a judge, there was a person recommended for judge by the Biden-Harris administration who literally wrote a paper saying that you don't have the right to your own home, that if you're trespassing on their property, that it should be legal. There was a nominee by the Biden-Harris administration that literally said that. User is banned, says he identifies as a checkbox. Don't we all? Hey, I don't know. I got a couple of checkboxes, but I'm Republican, so I guess they don't count. Yeah, and user makes a good point. Just change, imagine folks for a moment, if we change the language here, and if we said in that same section that an underserved community, the target of this legislation happened to be rich white people, or was Germans, or Jews, or Asians, or Hispanics. I can put in any group you want, Muslims, doesn't matter, Christians, doesn't matter, gays, trans community, doesn't matter. Whatever term you want to put in there, this is racially insensitive. It is racially biased. This is a pure statement of prejudice. Even at the end of the day, if there was an attempt to help to help people by its words, it is defeating that purpose because it is rooted at its core in the same prejudice that Anna Presley and the Democratic Socialists of America promote. I'm not saying that poor people shouldn't be able to get to and from work better. I'm not saying that our public transportation system couldn't be made better. But what I am absolutely saying is the bill, as she wrote it, as she supports it, as she is advocating for it, is absolutely, explicitly racist. And unlike Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on 60 Minutes, I believe in being semantically, grammatically, mathematically, and factually correct. And I know there are people who are going to say, well, Mike, you just don't understand. Mike he lies about. I'm showing you the friggin' bill itself so that you can see this. I'm showing you the tweet itself so that you can see it. And I'm including the links in the description after the show so that you can read this yourself. And the only people who support this are progressives. Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey, and that's also Anna Presley, and where it is. Come on. Gwen Moore, Jesus Garcia, Maxine Waters, Grace Meng. These are the racists that are in Congress right now that want to persecute you and want to push racism in America. I'm astounded that this is happening in my lifetime. After having lived through the 70s, 80s, 90s, yes, I'm that old, 70s, 80s, 90s, having seen the attempt to fix America, and we were succeeding in trying to turn away from Jim Crow, turning away from racism and the racist history of America. Yes, it exists, I know. And we tried to improve, and we did. In less than a generation, we had significant improvements, and now we are going and racing backwards in time to become as racist as the Southern Democrats were back in the 50s. And if I am wrong, I'd like to hear how. Dow says every community applying for poor, disadvantaged minority status would create system-crushing red tape. No one would get the money. And why wouldn't any community not identify as any of the protected groups that they are saying? Because the Supreme Court, under KBJ, Katanji Brown Jackson, well, she has no way of defining what's white or black, male or female, or any sex and gender. They don't exist according to progressives. So you can shift that every day, which guarantees you should be getting this money. And it breaks America, which I think is the point. John Cordisco says, how about zero or low interest business loans for being a minority or a woman? I identified as Black, Hispanic, trans woman. That should cover a lot. Yes, it should. Zero interest loans for businesses, different argument. Not quite the same thing, but we'll get into it. But again, breaks the, why don't we all open up a business and say we're all minorities? We're minority women, we're trans women, Black, Hispanic, whatever hits the best check marks they've got. Why not? Because it's insane. But they're pushing insanity. Tina says it's Agenda 21. And Tina, I agree with you, it is. Dow says, user says, doesn't the Twitter thing say Latinx? Yes, it says Latinx. I'm just not using that term because it's stupid and it's racist. I'm not Latinx. I've never been. My father, my family, my entire family on Puerto Rico, none of them are Latinx. Nobody I know is Latinx. It's just insane. Hang on, John. Let me read what you just said there. So, as John Cordisco says, Mike, as a white supremacist, you just can't interpret the legislation correctly. My white privilege clouds the interpretation of the English language. And guess what? Every member of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow would probably agree with you. Because they have literally, I've had 50 of them surround me and tell me to my face on videotape, on video, on live stream, with the news media present, 50 members of of progressive leaders of tomorrow stood around and a mob and screamed at me for 20, 30 minutes, telling me that I wasn't black, I'm not Hispanic, and that I'm white. That I was a white supremacist. I have the receipts. Matter of fact, they're on YouTube, they're on my channels. You can see the live stream yourself and see the receipts. So yes, they think that I'm against this racist bill from Anna Presley, H.R. 2287, because I am a white supremacist. No, your screen is not lying to you. That is my skin tone. It's not a good tan. It's a permanent, lifelong tan. Don't let the gray beard confuse you. Just crazy. It's just crazy, folks. When I see these things, folks, I get upset. I'm upset. Honestly, I'm not upset about Anna Presley. And I don't think anyone who watches this is upset about Anna Presley. We're upset about the policies that are being put forth to divide America, to separate us. And I'm showing you issue after issue where we're seeing this, whether it's coming from Bill Maher or The View, whether it's coming from Anna Presley or AOC. And we've seen it from so many people in so many of these issues over and over again. Eric Adams, the practical progressive in New York City, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, Antonio Delgado. How many politicians do I need to name where I can show you and have shown you over and over again these things? And it is sad. And when I think about this, and then I think that the rest of the world is looking at this and they are taking our lead. They are using the things that we are saying, the things that we are doing, and they are using them to take advantage of other people, like we see in South Africa. They are importing our ideas, our racism, our prejudice, being promoted by progressives, and they are using it to their advantage to be able to usurp the power of people. Canada's Trudeau is no different. The same thing. Another clear example. We've seen that in Australia. We've seen that in New Zealand. It's terrifying, folks. Yes, Agent Black, there is hope for America in November. Yes, America can turn this around. It is not impossible. H.R. 2287 will fail, just like it failed the last time that she tried to pass this. My concern isn't that it's going to fail. Yes, it will, because it's completely racist. My problem is no one in the news media will tell the people of Massachusetts that Anna Presley is trying to push and create racism in America. They won't even admit that it's racism because she's black. And somehow that makes her immune to being racist. Although it makes me racist because I'm just as black as Anna Presley. But because she's on the left, she's immune. And because I'm on the right, I'm somehow a racist that doesn't understand a mirror and my own life. I don't get it. And I'm upset that America has to go through this. I really am. So let me go over this real quick. Maybe hopefully this won't be as upsetting for you, my audience, as it is for me. Record-breaking migrants anticipated in the United States border. 8,000 illegal aliens will be trying to enter the United States every single day. We have already had almost 1 million illegal aliens try and enter the United States since October under the Biden-Harris administration, because Kamala Harris is on the job she's making sure she's on top of the southern border. If that's what she says, that's what she's putting out in her press releases. That's what she says. And the result is that there will be more people trying to illegally enter the United States than we have seen in decades. There are so many people that they will try to overwhelm the system. There are some 16,000 people trying to down in Mexico right now, looking to try and enter the United States in the next 30 to 45 days. This is according to the Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz as he spoke to CNN. Again, I'm not making this number up. This isn't coming from a right-leaning source. This is not a Republican or conservative viewpoint. This is CNN. It doesn't get that much more left progressive than, you can't go further left in the modern major news media. It's CNN. They're telling you 8,000 people daily. Double the number than in 2019. The Biden administration has completely failed. Completely failed. In Del Rio, Texas, where 17,000 Haitians in 2021, 17,000 Haitians decided it was better to live under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas, than to live in Haiti, because America is just that great. It really is. And in Del Rio, Texas, oh, by the way, 12,000 of those 17,000 Haitians were allowed to enter the United States illegally. They were illegal aliens. 12,000 opened the door, let them walk in out of 17,000. But currently, in Del Rio, Texas, agents face groups of hundreds of illegal aliens. They call them migrants. They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens. They have no right to be here. Turning themselves over to agents for 6 consecutive days. Facilities at the border are over capacity already and held over 16,000 migrants Tuesday morning, Ortiz told CNN. This was reported March 25th, 2022. It's 2 days ago. This week, 16,000. And Biden is trying to send border agents to Poland. We have 8,000 people a day, double what we saw in 2019. Record-breaking numbers. We're going to exceed 2021. We're going to exceed 2020, the number of illegal aliens that we're going to have trying to enter into the United States. And Biden wants to take our border agents and send them to Poland. And Kamala Harris is on top of the job, and she's fixing the problem. Do you remember her saying that in 2021? She's fixing the problem. This is her job. Biden had a press conference to make sure she would come on up and told everyone in America, she's got this. She's going to handle this problem. But remember, AOC told you, it's not important to be semantically, factually, grammatically, mathematically correct. That's not important. You have to have the right ideology. And Kamala Harris's ideology is it's not a problem. So I guess it's not a problem, according to progressive ideology. And I do not think any Democrat agrees with this stuff, but they are voting these people in and voting them through. They are voting for Anna Pressley. They're voting for Ilhan Omar. They're voting for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They are voting for these racist policies and this ineffective action that is literally harming America. And I am more than happy to hear someone tell me how I'm wrong. And I've been asking that for years. Okay, so going back to some of the comments here. Kind of interesting that now, see what happens when they leave me off of YouTube for a week? I go ballistic. The worst thing they could have done is let me build up all this rage, this anger at these ineffective, useless politicians and these horrible racist policies, and let me build that up for a week. By the way, if you have been here for the show for this long, I appreciate you. I thank you. You're wonderful. And I do thank you for that. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that I've said so far today, I appreciate that you've taken time to watch this program. And I want you to know that we not only do we appreciate you, we ask you for one thing. We want to reach 1,234 subscribers. It's a simple thing. We ask you to like, share, and subscribe because it is you that makes this possible, that allows us to speak to people in the United Kingdom, to speak to people around the world, in India, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, and across the United States, to talk about these important issues because politicians are watching this program. They won't comment on it, but they reach me afterwards. They talk to me privately. They are watching this. They are listening to your comments around the world. And I thank you for giving us that opportunity. And we look to be able to reach more people. We do that when you like, share, and subscribe. I thank you for that. And I do also want to take another moment to thank, it's one of our viewers who helped us out. They decided to donate to us, which I appreciate greatly. And that's the reason why we're able to do this program today. They helped us from having our internet shut down. They helped pay a bill. And that helps a lot because I haven't been working since 2020. I've lived off of my savings to be able to do this program, to travel, to buy the equipment, to pay all the bills since 2020 because I am a 54-year-old Republican who is unvaccinated, and that's hard to get a job. So I do appreciate the donation. I'd mentioned the user by name, but they have not given me permission, so I'm going to leave them as anonymous. But I appreciate the payment to the PayPal. It helped a lot. That's why we're here this week. So let me go back to some of the comments here. So we do have a chance of, we don't have to agree with this, folks. We're not Canada. We can vote these people out. And that's in November. That's your choice. You can do that. Or at the very least, demand that these politicians answer your question. They serve you. You don't serve them. They serve you. Let me go on. In grassroots, I agree with Agent Black and Dal Grimm as they mentioned that grassroots, that's what America's built on. That's the whole point. We are a grassroots nation. So you do have the power. You have always had the power. That's why they avoid election integrity so much, and why I think it's important to see the interview with Matt Brainerd, look ahead America, see what we have discussed there. I think it's very important. Dow mentions that he has neighbors that have been diehard progressives for the majority of the last two administrations, and now in our discussions, they are more receptive to questions what they are currently seeing, and it gives him hope. It gives me hope when we see that. But at the same time, we had hope for, some people had hope for Bill Maher, and look at what's happening there. It's consistency, folks. You have to follow all the way through. You have to pay attention to these things. You have to look at what they are saying and the bills that they are passing, and you have to say, does that make sense? How is it not racist? How is it not just biased, prejudiced? How can we allow them to do these things to us? We have to be able to talk about it. Dow mentions illegal immigration is like leaving the front door wide open with the expectation that strangers are not going to just wander in. No, Dow, illegal immigration is like leaving your neighbor's door wide open and not caring if some stranger goes on in there and ransacks the place because that's what they're doing. They're opening up the door and they don't care because Nancy Pelosi has a wall around her house. So does Chuck Schumer. So does Joe Biden. And Anna Press, it's Cori Bush. Cori Bush, who's the representative out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Cori Bush, another member of Progressives, the Squad, she has a bunch of armed guards. She spends $70,000 a year on armed guards to protect her and her property. Anna Presley uses the police, the state police, to protect her property. You don't get anything. You get to have an illegal alien as your neighbor. User has been banned says, I think they realize that things are getting bad and the ruler types know if things get too bad, a French Revolution. Maybe. Agent Black says, on a positive note, all this craziness is showing off just how bad liberals are in charge. They are ridiculously bad. That's why they're going to lose in 2022. That's a given. How badly? I don't know. But does it change anything? You know, if we keep people like AOC, like Anna Presley, how many times does she get to put in this bill until she gets the people she needs to back her up? I don't know. Agent Black mentions that the UK has a border problem, not on the same scale because it's an island nation, but they have the same problems. And that's true, they do, because the UK is importing the politics of the United States. Critical race theory is being exported. It's one of the primary exports of our colleges right now. And it's going over to the UK and into France and other parts of the world, in Australia and South Africa, and it's not to the advantage of anyone. Dow says it's been amazing that they've been able to report that many with the minimal staff left on the southern border that were not deported to Poland. Well, think about this. Yes, there's that few of them. How many people are they not catching? These are the people they're catching. And we have less people as they're sending them over to Poland and as we're not paying attention to our border. How many people, and we don't have the wall, how many people are getting through that aren't being caught? These are double the numbers that we catch. How many don't we catch? And again, I will say that this is promoting child abuse because we are seeing record numbers of children, single children being sent with these sex slaves and with the drug dealers to come into America, being abandoned in the American southwestern desert. Some of them die, some of them get caught by our border patrol. But this is child abuse, that they're sending kids 1,000 miles with these slavers and these drug gangs and God knows what kind of abuse. And if we don't try and shut that down, more kids are coming next month. Let's stop the child abuse. Let's call it what it is. It's child abuse. Let's stop the child abuse. Close the border. Is there any Democrat that disagrees with me on that? Is there any progressive that disagrees with me on that? Stop the child abuse. Close the border. Or do you want to increase the child abuse and leave the border open? Because those are the two choices. You may not like the wording of that. I can word it much nicer. I can make you feel good about the wording. But the end of the day, the core answer is we can open the border and increase the child abuse of illegal aliens coming into America and children being sent into America with sex slavers and with drug gangs, or we can close the border and take away their incentive to send all those kids here. You either support child abuse or you support closing the border. It's one or the other. It's not both. John Cordisco says, all kidding aside, the progressives are the dinosaurs and the asteroid is coming. When it comes, it will be devastating to their ideology. I can see that. Mike Bowie says, we are not allowed to question elections. How do we question their policies? Mike, that's why I was shut down for a week, because I questioned their policies. I can ask the question. The thing is, well, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the major news media, will they let me continue to do that? Because they like to shut this channel down for quoting the news and asking a question. Yes, I'm raging. Yes, I'm raging. I know. But I need to rage because this is crazy, folks. And yes, I was shut down for a week, so I have a little bit of pent-up anger about that. But how are you not upset? I believe that the majority of America agrees with me. I wish I could reach more of America so that they can tell me, because I have the hope and prayer that America is still as great as I have always known it to be. And I believe that if most Americans were to hear these questions, to see some of the information I am presenting from around the world and ask the same question, they would ask the same questions I am asking. They would demand for the same answers that I am demanding. And I am not the only one. There is Matt Brainerd. There is Look Ahead America. There are people like Ted Cruz. And again, you don't have to like any one of these individuals. You don't have to agree 100% with any of us. But I think more Americans do lean towards or absolutely agree with what we are saying here and the questions we are asking to be answered, because they understand the consequences that are going on, because the American citizen isn't stupid. In fact, most of the people in the world aren't stupid. They understand consequences. They know how these things are affecting them. They're just being drowned out. They're just being silenced. They're being censored. They're being shadow banned. They are being told that they are evil and racist and sexist for asking a question and saying that the things that they are seeing don't make sense. And I think people are angry about that. I know I am. And we need to stop that. I'm not asking for violence. I disagree with that. I want people to vote. And I'm not telling you what to vote for. Maybe everything I have shown you today, you agree with. That's your opinion. You're an American citizen. You can do that. But I think most American citizens that see this will agree with me. Hopefully, we'll be able to reach more people, share this, like it, subscribe, and we'll be able to hear from more people. Hopefully, I'll be able to get more money and be able to pay to get this out on more of the social media networks so that people will be able to see this and make their own comments. I like this. I like this comment. Junker Disco says, the judge told me it's either 30 days in jail or to watch my live stream on Sundays. There you go. I'm sure for some of the progressives out there, they watch this show for like 5 minutes and they're like, oh my God, it's so painful. It's so painful. My eyes. And they have to run away. Some of them, I'm sure. I'm trying to catch up. Yeah, I'm not dead yet. That's for sure. They're not. I'm going to keep doing this show because as long as I've got the money to put up the videos and to get out, I'm going to keep going. And I've been doing that for 15 years. I have never made a profit on doing this program. I have never made a profit going anywhere. I'm not sponsored by anyone. Like to be. Wouldn't mind being sponsored. But I have no sponsor. And I don't make any, I don't get ads on YouTube. I don't get money for that. I just do this because I do this. Because I think it's important. Wouldn't hurt to make money, but you know, that's another thing. Yeah, John. John says he got a strike on his channel recently too. I know. There has been a purge that has been going on for a little while now, where we're seeing, while everyone's distracted about Russia and all the rest, we're seeing that the social media overlords are just purging people left and right. Okay, so folks, here's the thing. I have to. I promised. I promised Rory Sauter that I would appear on his program once I got done here today, and I said I'd be going on at 6:30. Got 5 minutes. So I need to go to his channel and where I'm supposed to be showing up as a guest on his program to talk about some of the same things we have. We've been talking about 4 hours. Wow, time just flies. So I'm gonna end it here. We will be back next Sunday, which is just after my birthday or just before my birthday. Just before my birthday. No, just before my birthday, April 3rd. It's 3 days before my birthday. I look forward to being able to speak to all of you guys. There's riots down in Miami Beach. I don't know about that. I'm going to check that out. So I'm going to let you guys go so I can, because I promised I would be on this program at 6:30 to be interviewed by Rory Sauter. You're welcome to watch that on YouTube or on Facebook. I want to thank each and every one of you. Please come back next week. Agree or disagree, just show up and share your time with me. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I thank you for being my audience. I'll talk to you all again very, very soon. And I'm going to check out what's going on in Miami as well.